What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the UGAsports.com Georgia Postgame Overreaction show presented by Benton & Benton Attorneys at Law. I'm your host, Paul Meharry. Jason Butt's not with us tonight, so I've got a substitute teacher, as you will, the professor, Brent Rollins, in the building with us. Rody Nabolsi will be joining us shortly. And for all of you out there that are joining us, first off, we appreciate you a ton. Let us know where you're watching from in the comment section on YouTube or Facebook. Last week, guys, we did 186,000 views and Georgia won. So we might actually get above that tonight. Lot to dissect, lot to go into, lot to just break down. And we have the king of all breakdowns here with us, Brent Rollins. And as I pass this over to Brent, which I do with each and every guest, I asked their initial instant analysis of the game. I want you guys to chime in. Let me know where you're watching from. And then if you feel so inclined, guys, there's not. I need to put the link in the description on YouTube. I'll do that.
Do your job.
Yeah, do your job. Yeah, I'm one of them tonight. While Brent Rollins is talking, I'll put the link in there on YouTube. You can join us, and it's gonna be a long show, but hopefully you all buckle in for this one. Brent, what happened?
Complete and utter arse whipping, I guess, is probably the most basic way to say it. But so I'm actually going to start out positive.
There's not much from this game, but go ahead.
No, there's not much from the game. But we've seen how this season in college football is any given Saturday, week-to-week game. You've got 2 losses. You win out. You're likely in the playoff. And then the matchup matters more than anything. But again,
you got to get there first.
You got to get there. And next week's, guess who has a really good defensive line?
Tennessee.
The team in orange. And it was like outside of think about this game if you don't get the early turnover and touchdown. Like it was a complete and utter butt whipping.
Yeah.
Like just nothing. And in terms of, what's the, I think, take home from this is that Lane said, all right, I know I can't run against you. I'm not going to try. And on 1st and 10, they threw the ball. It was at one point I was counting, there was a couple inside the 10 or right around the 10-yard line where it was goal to go or really close to the end zone that they ran it on 1st down. But it was like 12 out of 13, 11 out of 13 at one point. And even in the second half, they start the first drive in the second half. When you go down and you get a field goal, you're only down 6. Somewhat, we're still somewhat in it. And they come out, throw. And, that's, you can't sugarcoat the absolute butt whooping. That's for sure. But they decided, hey, we can't run the ball on you. So we're going to throw it. And Georgia still had a lot of its first down to me personnel in the game, much throughout the first half, first and second down personnel. And now if you watch, you got Chaz backing out into coverage sometimes, Damon Wilson backing out into coverage some, Aguero in coverage consistently. Ole Miss just said, okay, we're gonna be better there. And that was the essence of the game, obviously outside of you being completely inept and able to blocking them on offense.
Yeah, this was a tough watch because you thought for sure Georgia could go in here and beat this Ole Miss team. Goes to show you, Ole Miss, not to take anything away from them, they've got an amazing defensive line. Those guys leading the league in sacks. I mean, they've got some ballers up there. And the thing is, they're kind of secondary isn't as good, but you couldn't get to the secondary level, Brent, because Georgia couldn't pass the ball, couldn't get it out. You saw even on the last drive, which it was almost sad in a sense. You saw Carson trying to get those screen passes out there just to get some type of, something going. And they couldn't even do that on the last drive. Jared Ivey's, 6'6" freak of arms were out there, batting balls down. It's tough to watch this team and to still feel like they have a chance against Tennessee and hell, even against Georgia Tech. I mean, the pessimism in me is at an all-time high. This is just it's a tough team to watch, Brent, because we've seen what they can do, but we've also seen this game coming for weeks. We have seen this game coming to where they were going to lose. Maybe not to Ole Miss, but we knew this game was there. Just the offensive line is not as good as last year. Wide receivers aren't good as last year. Tight ends definitely not as good as last year. Your quarterback is not as good as last year. So that's your entire offense. And your running backs are not as good as last year either. Your whole entire offense is not as good as it was last year. And you're seeing it on the field now. It just is unfortunate that it's taken this long to come out. And Georgia not be able to fix this.
Well, you think about, is anything easy for them offensively?
No, there's literally not one thing they can do on offense that has any semblance of an offense. There's no type of rhythm that can get going. Nate Frazier looked good at times tonight. He also put the ball on the ground, 2 or 3 times?
Twice.
So yep. How do you fix this, Brent? And you have to fix it quick, right? Or is it fixable? Or is this just what you've got and you're going on against Tennessee and you've got to just go with what you've got?
You're right in terms of no fixes. Like, you're not going to fix anything at this point. You're just going to, okay, what can we do? Who can you trust in any way with a football? I think ETN is one of those guys, but he's obviously banged up. Like Frazier, I mean, kid ran his tail off, but he's putting the ball on the ground. So it's one where, like, receiver part, like, you're not. Anthony Evans is dinged up with the hammy, so it's not like you can put him in. You're going to, in essence, your 7th guy if you're bringing in other receivers. So maybe 6 or 7, something like that. So it's basically, we got what we got. We just have to play well and execute and find something that you can kind of hang your hat on, at least offensively. Defensively, I think it's one where, from a plan standpoint, I think they're going to be okay against Tennessee. But also, when you think about the dilemma with offenses like Tennessee and Ole Miss, is, hey, they want to run the ball in early downs, but if Tennessee comes out throwing it and you've got guys in there that are not necessarily, like, your first and second down defensive line is not necessarily a get to the quarterback defensive line.
Correct.
And that's, so there's so many different things. And what was amazing about it, like, think about how we feel, how you feel right now as a Georgia fan versus how you felt after like 2 minutes into the game.
Right. Yeah. You get an interception.
You probably thought this is going to be an absolute roasting.
Yeah.
Pick, touchdown, darts hurt.
Yeah.
And boom. And to me,
but it was short-lived, Brent. It was short-lived because Austin Simmons came in and threw that thing around.
So the play of the game to me was that 3rd and 12, where Daniel Harris just kind of lets a 11-yard slant hit right in front of him. I mean, it looked like he was just kind of hanging out, like barely there. You couldn't see much on the TV copy there. But that allows them to go forward on 4th down. They get it, and then the kid goes down, and then they go down and score. Like, that would have been a 3 and out, or maybe they had 1 first down before that, but it would have been a punt and put them down. And now you've got momentum. They've got nothing. Like, they're panicking a little bit, but after they go down and score with the backup QB just spitting beans really quick. By the way, very impressive kid.
Yeah.
Lefty. I didn't even realize he was a lefty.
No, lefty 13 looked like Tua out there, and having flashbacks of Tua coming in the championship game.
That's, people were definitely doing that, but that was, to me, the part of the game where it's like, oh crap, and then they answered like that, and then it was just, they dominated from there on out. The rest of the game, they dominated the game.
Bully mode. It was bully mode. It was. It was what Georgia has done to teams for so long and finally happened to them. It came back to them, Brent. And let me bring on old John here. This might not be fun, Brent. I don't know. Have you dealt with John before?
I think dealt with is probably a bad terminology, but
yeah, it's
interact on the show. Like, that's
interact. Yeah.
Yes, let's interact.
Man, John, man, I love John, dude. John's not going to be happy tonight, though. John, what's up?
What's up, guys? I'm going to be calm. Be calm. You said it yourself, Paul. You got what you got. And I was trying to hold off till the boss came on, but I guess I'm not going to. If you have what you have, doesn't that defer back to coaching and scheme? This is not the first game. This is not the second game. This is the now the ninth game. I was wrong last week.
Yeah, I was going to say you jumped a game last week.
If we have what we have, then is this a one-off, or is this what we've seen essentially since the Clemson game? Let's just say, let's write off Tennessee Tech, because like you said, also this has been brewing. This has been brewing. So is it? I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say we knew this was coming. We just didn't know it was going to probably come against Ole Miss, right? But every post-game show we've talked, hey, there's some troubles with this team, right? And some of them rear their head in a game, but they're able to overcome them. But when all of the problems with this team rear their ugly head in the same game, there's no overcoming that. You're losing by 18 to a Lane Kiffin coached Ole Miss team.
And I understand that the announcers need fodder. I get all that. But we knew Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers weren't going to be here last December when they declared for the draft. Yeah. So, again, we're 11 months removed from that, and we are what we are, but we're still have the same issues that we've had essentially since the Clemson game. And I don't understand. There's a couple plays, and I understand that nothing could get going, but we were in screens to the field when we had one guy to block three to get a guy open. I just don't understand where the defense of the scheme is coming from, other than he's a nice guy. But again, I think Kirby Smart is the best coach in the country. And here I am sitting in my kitchen saying this, and it's post-game overreaction. But he's going to have an epiphany like Nick Saban did. Offense is going to have to be a priority. The man can coach. The man can coach defense 100%. And the defense, the defense was going to have a game like this eventually. That defense is not 21 defense. They're good, but you knew that you're going to have to bail them out. And if you can't bail them out, you're in real trouble. And we talk about Tennessee. That's just one hurdle. You don't think Georgia Tech's going to come in here and want to ruin our seat? You still got to beat Georgia Tech to get in the playoff.
On Black Friday, too. On
Black Friday, you're on the national stage. You don't think Brent Key's going to have those? They just beat the number 3 team in the country.
Yeah.
I just – the frustration is palpable, and I don't understand how our offensive line is so bad. This is the University of Georgia, and I completely understand that we have what we have. Those are the best 5 guys we have playing. But if those are the best 5 guys, are we really the best team in the country?
No, and I don't think – I mean, did you think before this game, though, Georgia was the best team in the country?
No, I was with you, and I'm trying to reverse my MO about being a pessimist. But
right.
Like you said –
right. Yeah, I've fully taken over your spot here on the show, John.
No. But the MO – we knew it was coming. No, they haven't been good all year. They didn't play well against Texas. That defense just really balled out. And Coach Smart said it himself in Alabama. He said they played so well in the second half because they had an extra down on every drive. The stats could be misleading. He said that himself after the game, or that week after, because they were having to go forward on 4th down. They really didn't play that well all year. They have not played all year. So, again, does it come down to coaches or players? I understand players have to play. But if you're not putting your players in the best position, I don't know what the answer is.
Question for you. How many top 3 round NFL guys do you see on the offense right now?
Well, they said Carson Beck would be a 3rd round today, before the game today. Probably him. That's it. But again, to my point, is that acceptable for the University of Georgia?
Yeah,
I would say no.
No, right. I agree with you. Yeah, no, I guess it's a rhetorical question, but
yeah, and not to like, try to find optimism in all this, but I think they really, really were relying heavily on Ra Thomas more than we thought they were going to this year, and he's nowhere to be found, obviously, for very specific and needed reasons. And then you have Colby Young go out, who was going to kind of jump into that spot. You just don't have that. again, I'll say it, you don't have that X receiver. You don't have that guy where you can turn to and say, all right, man, I need you to go run down the field. I need you to catch this pass on this slant and just beat your guy one-on-one. There's not one guy out there. So they're trying to throw these tunnel screens and trying to get linemen out in front of them, trying to move the pocket, right? And I'm not an analyst guy. Brent does that, but I can watch football and I can see what's happening, right? I can see that they don't feel comfortable with Carson behind that offensive line. They don't feel comfortable with their receivers running good enough routes downfield to where even if he had a good offensive line in front of him, they want him to stay in the pocket for long and throw a pass to those guys deep. So it's just both of those things combined, you're throwing backwards passes almost in a sense, trying to create screens and trying to create, mismatches out in the open field. And Ole Miss saw right through that. They saw right through that and they were able to capitalize. John, one last thought before I let you go, because I got some folks waiting in the background, but I don't want to cut you off because you're the man.
No, I'm going to be a little bit there. Hey, some folks in here need to lay off my man, Triple G. Triple G is the man. Triple G is definitely a legend. And anybody messes with Triple G, they're going to have to see a lot of us that hang out on UGA Sports because he's the man. Yeah. That's all I want. I was ready to throw my phone against the wall last week to defend Triple G. But Triple G, you're the man. I love you. Call in every week. Y'all have a good one.
See you, brother.
Is he talking about Greg? Is that
he's talking about Gary Gilbreth?
Gary. Gary. I was thinking Greg.
Gary, man. He'll be on later. He's our
he waits, right? Doesn't he kind of
he waits a little bit. He lets
waits a little while.
The initial crowd come in. He comes in, hour or two or so and hypes us up a little bit. Let me get Ryan Harrison here. Jeremy Neighbors, I got you next. And then Kevin, I see you. And Hawaii Dog, I see you guys as well. I promise I'll get to you.
Ryan, one thing real quick. Is there a world where you thought Colorado might have a better chance to get in the playoff than Georgia?
No, that's no, there's not. But that is the world we're living in. Ryan, that's also the world you're living in, my friend. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing all right, man.
Good. All right. So look, John made a lot of great points. You did as well. I do think that's something that everyone talks about. Oh, there's no Ladd, there's no Brock. Well, we've known that, but missing Ra and Colby, that's actually a big problem. But I'm just going to move on from that. Carson isn't Stetson and is driving me bananas. I don't know why we rely so heavily on our run game with the zone read if the quarterback has no threat to pull or run. I've coached a lot of football, and we would watch film, and if the QB isn't going to do it, DNs just crash. You're telegraphing usually ahead of the play, whether or not it's inside or outside. I have no idea. Stetson, those runs we used to have, we don't have them. I mean, Carson didn't hear, but he was running for his life. Okay, so that's one question I have for you guys.
That's a question for Brent. That is not a me question.
No.
Why is that?
I actually made some notes this time.
You put a PhD next to that one because I do not have a degree.
So I mean, I know we get good runs on it, but it's like, okay, if we do that well when they know we're giving it to the tailback every time, that's the effectiveness of that play. The main effectiveness of the play is that the DN has to wait and stay there. I'm watching this game. I'm like, oh my God, they are just going straight after him. All right, so we got a lack of running back depth. So if we're going to run zone read as a lot of our running plays, again, the QB run helps it. Now I start to think, okay, well, we don't want the QB to run because we don't want to have to play number 2 or number 3, right? Okay, that's fine. That may be true. Then don't run those plays. Like why use those plays? That's ineffective. We came out in the second half under center in the pistol like the Falcons do with Kirk Cousins. Very effective. And then the other thing I don't get is we know our wide receivers are average to a little bit. We don't have A.J. Green. We don't have Jamar Chase, right? We don't have any of that stuff. Arian, he's an X, but he's not. And Dylan Bell is better at X, but he's not an X. And so here we are. We got these we miss. I don't know why we don't adjust the offense based on what we've got, or let Carson run. And then on the defense, we've got inexperience kind of up the middle a little bit. Starks has been struggling, and so they attack us there. And I don't know why we don't jam more against a Lane Kiffin type offense. We just gave them slants and free releases. And then the last point is we have to do better at wide receiver recruiting, and I think we have to do better at coaching the offensive line, because we came into this season and everyone said, oh, this is the best offensive line Kirby's ever had. And it appears to be not close to that. I'll stop. That's the end of my notes, Brent.
Hey, like the notes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do the same thing. I just write notes on the iPad during the game.
So, Brent, what's up with the zone there? The zone read if you're not going to have a running quarterback?
It doesn't have to be a running quarterback. It's just Carson can run. I don't know. Like I was an OC for years. Counter, right? You would set up run plays, right? Run power, run this, and then run the counter off of it. And I developed into running the spread, but the effectiveness of the play is that there is some threat. And if you go back and look, I mean, there was one play in the first half. It was 2nd and short. We were down like 10-7 or something. And if Carson pulled it, he'd be Forrest Gump. He's still running. He's still. Where are you? Oh, there it is.
Brent, what you got?
I mean, I agree. The premise, the overarching premise. I do think it's also a very small component of what it is that they do and or try to do. And it's not one where I think the pistol stuff, by the way, I've been screaming for the pistol stuff with Beck as the QB. And it's not so much, and here's the thing for me with that, with play design and what you have to do to a defense. It's not so much that the QB is not a running threat issue. It's when the back is on the right or the back is on the left, defenses can cheat because you can only do certain things.
Right.
The pistol always makes them balance up a little more. They have to.
It's the shotgun formation version of I formation, right?
And
almost,
like,
right?
You think back to Alabama in 2020. Alabama in 2020 with Mac Jones. I don't think Mac Jones is much of a guy. Like they were almost 60 to 70% pistol. They were a truly pistol power offense, and I thought that's what Georgia would morph into more so this year.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of the things where
that's my point, though, right?
We think
it.
Like,
oh, either you got Stetson or something like that, right, where you can do some of that, or I'd be interested to see, and maybe I'm totally wrong, Britt, but when you crunch the numbers, I'd be interested to see how much zone read we ran of our running plays versus under center or in the pistol. I really felt like in the second half we came out in that, and it was effective. And then Bobo got excited, and we started throwing, and then we stalled. Or got
a lot of it. The other thing too to think is, what's your QB comfortable doing, and what does he feel confident doing? Like you got to play to that guy's strengths and where.
What
he
do you
feels
think about that?
Just as much.
I mean, that's what everyone wants to know, right? Like I'm texts are coming in, so you're like you're glitching because everyone's talking about Beck. It's like, I mean, I know what Gunner is. I've been to 7 practices. Like, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? What do you do now? I mean, Beck does seem to be, oh gosh, just a combination of stuff. He's timid early, and then later on, all of a sudden, we run great plays with the crossing route on that down where Green missed. Didn't even, if he could have half a second on the D end, then our crossing guy scores. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you do at QB. I don't know. But
at this point, you ride with your guy. You got to ride with him. And your coach, the coach has already said, look, he's the guy. And if there's not a possibility of change, or if there was a possibility of change, it would have been made already.
Yeah.
Like it's
I think we like Jaden, but it's like he needs time and stuff. But
God. Ryan, I hate to cut you off, brother, but I got about 5 or 6 people waiting. I appreciate the analysis, man. Do you know him, Brent?
No,
Oh,
Just
I
from that,
heard you say
just from
love
right
it,
now.
coach. I was like, oh, I thought you guys might have coached together or something. No,
I said
there
love the
is
notes. I said love the notes.
the notes. Oh, okay.
Yes.
There is the Carson Beck conversation, which I'm sure we'll have later on in the show, Brent, and we don't have to jump into it, but it's there, right? And you know, can you blame it on Carson? Sure. Can you blame it on Bobo? Sure. Can you blame it on the wide receiver? You can blame it on whoever you want, right? It's pick your poison at this point with this offense and the inability to score points. So it doesn't matter who you pick.
That's a great point.
It
doesn't matter who you pick because there's not a wrong answer. Like if you want to go to the tight end room, well, guess what? The tight end room took a big step back. If you want to go to
the offensive line is not great.
Took a big step back. Receivers, big step back. Like running backs would be fine if they were healthy. Like you felt really good about, but because of the second injury, I think the Branson injury, like now you get into the part where that is kind of thin, and then Etienne's banged up and he can't just be a 20 touch a game guy. So yeah, it doesn't matter which group you pick, that it is underperforming. You're lucky to get struggling
10 touches out of Etienne, which tonight you got 9. You got 6 rushes for 24 yards out of Etienne with a long of 6, with 4 of those rushes, 4 of his 6 rushes coming on the first drive. And then he caught 3 passes for 10 yards. So your main guy who has been your offensive spark plug, he led your team, I think, 3 weeks in a row in receptions. Etienne is really nowhere to be found, unfortunately, with whatever he's dealing with his ribs. You saw Kirby go over to him early on in the game,
yeah.
Brent. I think it was the second
how you
drive,
doing or
maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah, he said, like, how are you doing? Kind of tapped him on the head. So there's obviously something going on right there. So let me bring in Lance McCurley real quick, and then we'll get to Hawaii Dog and Kevin Drummer. Lance, UGA Sports, Lance McCurley there.
What's
nice
up?
hoodie. Nice hoodie.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I like yours too.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, bud. How you doing?
Good, man. Just little shocked by that performance by the Dogs. Obviously, I don't think anybody saw that, that Georgia was going to get whipped on the defensive line and the offensive line, just kind of line of scrimmage. Obviously, everybody knew that about Ole Miss's front 4 on defense, but man, I'm just shocked that that they literally. I mean, Georgia could not do anything. They couldn't establish the run. They kept. Georgia just kept fumbling the ball, and just play calling was kind of a little bit of a weird option. I think down. What was it, 18? And obviously Georgia's probably not going to win the game at that point, but or down 15 with like 3:30 to go, and the first play from scrimmage is literally a screen pass. That just kind of shows me.
Yeah, that to me, Brent. I don't know about you. That play to me was like, dear God, like there's just no semblance of an offense. And I want to real quick before you answer that, Brent, apologize to the Facebook folks that are putting their comments in. They're not coming across with your name for some reason, and I can't activate that mid-show. So we just have Facebook user, which I know you all have names, and that is just a glitch in the system, but I will continue to put your comments up. So, hey, look, you can talk anonymously. Your name is not out there, but don't say anything.
It actually is probably better.
Right. Yeah.
It might be better. You could really let it loose.
Shout out to Charles McDonald, though, with the $20 donation. He says, this team lost as a whole. Bobo played it safe, and look what happened. This was a complete team loss. Where do we go from here? I trust Kirby, but something has to change. See, that last comment, the last sentence, rather, I think is where a lot of this fan base is right now. They trust Kirby, but something has to change. And that tie, if there was if I could put a headline, and I could, that would be the headline of the show. I trust Kirby, but something has to change. And you can't change. We talked about that earlier in the show, Brent. And again, thank you so much for the donation, Charles. You can't change this midseason. You can't change this in between now and Tennessee. You can make some changes in the offseason, though. And there are a lot of coaches that you can look at and say, hey, maybe Georgia, Athens isn't the place for you, right? But there's nothing you can do now. And I think that's the problem that Kirby's going to run into is I'm sure he wants to change stuff, but you can't right now. You're in the middle of And with the 12-team playoff, you're still potent, and we're going to get to that. I know Roddy's going to come on here and he's going to harp about how, there's 12 teams getting in, guys. This is 1 week. He's going to be in, his optimistic self, but you can't change anything right now. So in terms of coaching, and you can't go, this isn't, free agency. You can't go sign a wide receiver off of a 2-7 team. You've got who you got, right?
Go get Dante Cook midseason from Texas. You can't exactly. You
can't go get him, right? You can talk to him, and he's entered the portal, right? But he is of no use to you during this season. And shout out to CJ 2135 with a $5 donation. He said, "How the hell did our O-line go backwards this year? That was supposed to be a huge strength. How did it go backwards?"
My first thing would be, one, to me, you had a guy come back that's a guy. And just because he's very experienced doesn't necessarily mean he's very good. And that's 73 at right tackle. And I've always, it's one of those things with him. I think he's better as a guard than he is as a tackle. But the way your line is, and you think about offensive line play. What do you typically see? What do you want to typically see? Hey, I got this 5-man group and I'm rolling with it.
Yeah. You don't want to see changes, right?
Well, a lot of times, no. But I think one of the things that Searles has done since he's been there was the rotation and letting guys who played right tackle play some left tackle, things like that. It helps you minimize the minus, but it maybe doesn't necessarily maximize the positive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If with the rotation, like, hey, I'm never going to be hurting in a complete loss at a place now because I'm rotating and keeping a lot of guys there, but you don't necessarily maybe maximize what you can do as a 5-man group. So when you think about going into the season, you thought it was a strength because you had 3 really good guards. You had a center who athletically and to me would have played a long time ago if not for Van Pran. You had 2 starting tackles back, and one that you thought, a young kid in Freeling that you thought was going to rotate a lot. It's been that. It's been a disappointment. Little things from a film standpoint that I'm like, okay, head on this side, and we show those in Film Don't Lie weekly. So I get the frustration there.
Best comment of the night goes to Chris, $5. He said, "I should have used this money I spent on this comment towards NIL to bring Todd Monken back." Chris, you win the internet tonight. Congratulations, sir. What else stood out to you, Lance?
I mean, just the offensive line. I mean, just going back to the offensive line, Ernest Green just got beat tonight. Just seems like time after time. And, you look at a guy like that. I think Georgia's stopped recruiting guys like that on the offensive line. Coming from the recruiting side, Kirby has a body type of 6'8", 330, it seems like now. And Ernest Green, I feel like, was maybe one of the last guys that they've gone after like that with his size.
I think he's going to be a guard in the league, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
And it's probably his best position, but it's one where you would think there'd be some level of jump from, because he wasn't healthy as a freshman, then played all last year, and then this is sort of third year there. You would think there'd be some level of jump, and it just hasn't been. He's been solid. He hasn't been great, and some games are better than others, and this was obviously one where. And the thing about, I remember I tweeted a stat earlier in the week about number of people. By the way, he is huge, James.
James Carroll says, "Good thing we have a basketball player who's never played football before." Waiting,
he's got really good feet, but he's
wants to let the game early.
Yeah,
but like early in the week, about number of guys with at least like 20 pressures and 3 sacks that Ole Miss had. I think it was 6, and Georgia had 0. And folks are like, "Well, who they played? Look at the sacks they've got against." Well, they pressured LSU or Nussmeier on like almost 50% of his dropbacks. They had 27 pressures against LSU. They just didn't have any sacks because Nussmeier can avoid them really well and does a great job of moving around. You don't necessarily have that. So that's
here's a comment for you guys. Lane Kiffin to Molly McGrath after the game said, quote, a year ago, we lost these guys by like 30. We made a decision. We've got to recruit differently. We've got to go shopping. We planned for this game for a year, game planned all off season. They went shopping. They absolutely destroyed the portal and brought in some guys. And it shows with obviously beating Georgia. I think I said at the beginning of the year, I said this Ole Miss team is pretty good. Like if Lane Kiffin can somehow not lane this team, right? Like
his own way, yeah. And he did today.
And he got out of his own way today and let the team, like every time they went over to Lane, and not to say he's not coaching over there, obviously he is, but every time they showed Lane, he's not talking in the mic. He's just letting everybody kind of work and do their thing. And he's just standing there like I said, getting out of his own way sometimes.
I do think he's been building to this game, though, because if you watched him and how they've played recently, especially last week at Arkansas, he coached like mad and with a fire that you've never really rarely, if ever, see from him in that game. And I think it was building to this moment for them. But they're also now this is the nature of college football, where there's going to be teams like this that have some level of core talent. Yep. Then go do the shopping and fill all the gaps with all the with the best of the best. And then next year, they're going to be doing the same thing and or potentially like a Florida State, even Michigan to a certain extent, falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
So
it's
have this year.
It's very much the college football is turning into very much like I don't know, almost like baseball in a sense, where a team can make a run to the World Series and then not make the playoffs the next. And this Ole Miss team is probably one of those teams. After Jackson Dart leads, I mean, all those Simmons look good. They're going to have a lot of guys that are gone, right? Trey Harris is gone. They didn't even play Trey Harris tonight.
Yeah, that's just the thing is them going to Florida next week and playing at noon with Lagway maybe coming back and playing. Like, would I be shocked if they got beat in that game? No, because anything.
Look at what happened in Texas A&M a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
it's hard to get up 2 weeks in a row, and I know we've been with Kirby. It seems like Kirby can get his teams up 2 weeks in a row, but I mean Georgia struggled last week. I had an argument with a guy on Twitter. Obviously, Georgia was tied 20 to 25 minutes ago. Obviously, they made the plays when they needed to against Florida, but like. I completely agree. This would not shock me if Ole Miss went into game. Is it in Gainesville? You said,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, for a noon game, and obviously Florida got their teeth kicked in today. That was going to happen regardless, in my opinion. Even with if Lagway would have been playing, Texas is looking to kind of bounce back after that. Just almost lost to Vanderbilt, who's a good football team too, but. I mean, it's hard to get up 2 weeks in a row, and like I said, perfect example is Texas A&M loses or beats LSU is on a high, and then they get stomped and then mollywopped in the second half by South Carolina.
Got a donation from Georgia Rebel. He says Georgia has got to recruit some damn receivers. The only decent receivers we have are Bell and a running back, Cash Jones. Cash Jones, I think, if I'm not mistaken, had the long of the day.
Yeah.
No? Did he? Yeah,
a touchdown too.
29-yard pass. So Lovett led your team with 4 catches and 41 yards. That's just kind of it's absolutely unacceptable. But Cash Jones 3 for 33, Dylan Bell 3 for 33, Arian Smith 3 for 32, Trevor Etienne 3 for 10, Lawson Lucky 2 for 30, Urasek 1 for 7, and Nate Frazier 1 for 0. As far as rushes, you take all the team rushes out and everything like that. Math's not good. 47 plus 24 plus 12. What is that? 70 something. So 12 attempts for Frazier, 47 yards, and the touchdown early. Then you had ETN, like we said, 6 for 24. 4 of those rushes coming on the first drive. Only 2 after that. Dylan Bell 1 for 12. Arian Smith 1 for 0. And then the team got credited with a loss of a yard. Cash Jones 4 for -3, and then Beck 8 for -20. Just the stat line is one for the ages there. Lance,
a lot of grossness on there.
Yeah,
you wanna stick around me, Lance? I'll let Brent leave because he's got to go, and we'll get some more callers.
Yeah, it's fine with
until
me.
we get to Austin here.
All right, so I will say, do I just hit remove or do I hit leave studio?
Just get out of here, brother. No, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me and hosting it with me to start it up, brother.
Sounds good. Thanks, Paul.
See you, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Get Brent up out of here. While we do that, we got to do a shout out real quick to our sponsor for the show, and then we will get to the next segment. We got Kevin coming on, Kevin Drummer coming next, and Kevin Wood, sponsor of the show. Benton and Benton, attorneys at law. Bart Benton and his father over in Monroe, Georgia. If you're injured, Lance, be smart. Call Bart. You'll never forget that. They've got their phone number right there. They're actually helping me on a case. We got hit and run in Fort Lauderdale a night before we got on our cruise, and wife had a broken hand. It's a whole story. So we just got the police report back. Bart Benton is the one that's helping me with that. And if you ever are in a car crash, in a wrongful accident, slip and fall, anything like that, Bart Benton at Benton and Benton will take care of you. And again, Lance, if you're injured, be smart.
With all my car trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lance, you need to keep this phone number close. You need to keep this phone number
I'm going to take a picture of
it. I have it. So if you need it, just let me know. Yeah. They'll take good care of you over there. They're based out of Monroe, Georgia, and they will service all of Georgia and take great care of you. So, Lance, let's get on Kevin Drummer. He's been waiting a long time. He's got a big old timepiece on his wrist. Let's see what he's got. Look at that thing.
Oh, look at that thing.
What's up, Kevin?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Not going to reinvent the wheel. Not going to keep you long because we're going to echo the same sentiments as pretty much everybody else. But and I'm not the fire this coach guy, fire that coach guy. I'm slow to get to that point. But Stacey Searles, James Coley, Bobo, they got to go, man. That offensive line has regressed so dramatically since Matt Luke left. There's nowhere else to point to. And it's kind of getting back to one of those Mark Richt things. They get these 5-star talents in, and then we're not seeing 5-star play. So oftentimes that's a sign of coaching.
It's the same players, right, Kevin? They were the same players that are pretty much there when Luke was there, right?
Yes, it's the same guys, and they've gotten worse. And what concerns me about it is the coaching front. The offensive line, a lot of times, you got what you got, but they look lost. It's like they don't know how to handle a stunt. They don't know who to block. They're not, they're not recognizing the right, protection changes. It's just they're lost. Like no quarterback's going to survive. I know Beck gets a lot of heat, and he's thrown a lot of interceptions that are just bad. But no quarterback's going to thrive in an environment where your offensive line is just completely blowing blocks. It's not by a little bit. I saw Ernest Green get just completely run by at least 3 times tonight. Didn't lay a hand on the guy. No quarterback's going to survive that. And for one of the first times, Glenn Schumann, somebody's got to call him on the carpet too, man. That strategy in the first half was piss poor. I mean, soft coverage, continuously giving up slants and crossers, just giving up 8-yard completions just over and over with no adjustment at all.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on the defensive side. I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin.
Yeah,
the middle of the field tonight, gentlemen.
Linebackers were lost. It seemed like
it was completely wide open. Like there was a play, I can't remember when, and I'd have to go back and look. Probably one of these. They had 3 of these that went over 4 of these. Excuse me, that went over 25 yards in the passing attack. I think it was the one to Watkins over the middle where Dart threw it to him, and there was not a Georgia player around, like within the camera view in the middle of the field. And what happened was they went back and looked at it. CJ Allen, I think, took off from being in the middle of the field with a receiver going downfield and just left the middle of the field wide open. You do that, you couple that with the offensive struggles Georgia's having, it's tough to win ball games, man. It's really tough.
I mean, it was also coupled with, it was almost a stubbornness to get out of that base package. I don't know, like when Chris Cole was on the field, Chris Cole played much better pass coverage. I don't know why they were so stubborn to keep CJ and Raylan in together, but Chris Cole is definitely one of their better pass coverage linebackers, and it seems like he should have been tuned up for this game. He should have been a bigger part of the package, and I out of some stubbornness, we obviously don't see what goes on in practice. I don't know, maybe if he's busting coverages in practice or whatever, But when he's on the field, he seems to be one of their better linebackers. And I just don't know why he didn't have a bigger role in this game, why they didn't put Starks down in the box early in the game. Seems like the defense played a little better when he was playing in the star, and they dropped Bolden and Jackson back down. It's just like they're stubborn because this is what's always worked. So we're going to keep doing it because we're Georgia. And the coaching staff seems to be stuck in this rut to where we're going to out-talent you. But because of NIL, that paradigm's shifted, man. You've got to out-coach and out-scheme people now because the talent is spread. Nobody's just going to have an overly dominant team over anybody anymore. Those days are gone. So you got to out-coach and out-scheme people.
Well
Kevin,
said.
do you want a job?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, seriously, you're speaking the truth. And, ultimately it comes back to Kirby Smart. And I was having a conversation with my dad right before I hopped on. And I'm just like, can Kirby sometimes get out of his own way in just terms of just being able to exactly like you said, I mean, you can't, sometimes you just can't, beat people with, I kind of forgot the point you're kind of going back to, but I mean, he has to get out of his own way. He has to approach it. And it's kind of like the Florida game in 2020. All you saw were those slant routes. All you saw were those wheel routes. Today it was slant routes. It seemed like across the middle, and there was nothing that Kirby could do to adjust to it. And sometimes the team just plays better than you, and that was Ole Miss today, in my opinion.
Yeah, not to harp on CJ Allen. I mean, he led your team in tackles. He had 8 tackles, 7 solo. But there's a clear difference, and I mean, everybody saw it. Wherever he was lined up, if Dart could somehow get him in a man type coverage, right?
That's where they're attacking.
That's where they were attacking. That was their first read. Is where where he was, or Aguero. So they were looking for both of those two guys. If one of those two guys were in the game, they were looking at who he was matching up against, and that was their first point of attack. Like you said, Chris Cole, I think he is a difference maker, but he's also really young too. So like, how much do you trust him to go in there inside that stadium and do what he can do and try to,
well, cover. I mean, at the end of the day, he couldn't do any worse than what we saw. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where, it was a tough game all around. K-Dub, for the love of ATL Sports, says, great commentary from the guests. Great job, my guy. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Kevin Drummer is his name. He'll be taking my job very soon. He's crushing it. He also he's just flexing on us with the timepiece, just for no reason, just putting the watch out here, just winning the day. Where's the team go from here, Kevin? Before I have to get rid of you and bring somebody else on, where do you go from here? How do you spark this up? Obviously, you have this is going to be the biggest game this season for Georgia inside Sanford Stadium. It's probably also the biggest game for Georgia in terms of trying to keep their season alive past the actual season and hopefully into the postseason. Where do you go from here?
My opinion, you're going to have to break every tendency you have for the rest of the season. So, I noticed
before you get going, can you do that in a week?
Well, you got to do it within the plays you already have. But the one thing I also noticed a lot is those condensed formations. They got to spread that thing out because you don't have the line that's going to hold up. That's been proven all season. So you got to start generating these one-on-one matchups, these easy reads for Carson. Get him, hey, you got 2 reads. You got this, your primary, your secondary. If not, it's a check down. Like they really got to dumb this offense down just to score some points. I think it's overcomplicated. Nobody's playing fast on offense. Everything's predictable. They gotta break their tendencies. They got to do a lot of self-scout and break a lot of their tendencies that they've been doing. Like even the announcers called that tunnel screen to Dominic Lovett on 3rd down in the first half before like everybody knew that was coming. Even Joe Smo, that the biggest complaint is, the fans don't know what they're looking at. Every Joe Smo on from TV and the announcers knew that play was coming. You mean to tell me you don't think a $1 million coordinator from Ole Miss can't tell that play's being set up? I mean, come on. Like, don't give the fans crap that we don't know what we're looking at when it's pretty obvious to all of us that, you got to do something different. You got to get a little innovative.
Exactly. But like you said, or like Paul said, is it something that they can do in a week? I think so, but I mean, it actually takes someone. The question is Kirby going to motivate himself to push it to?
Yeah, I mean, he has to if he wants to make the postseason.
Yeah. And plus, this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you guys go. I appreciate the time. Everybody's getting paid now. So, hey, I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't want to hear it. You got these kids making $500,000, $1 million, 150,000, 250,000. I go to work every day and I'm barely scraping that. So, hey, you're getting paid to do a job. Get it done.
That's a very good point, because Jason Butt of UGAsports.com, we had a talk, and then we actually talked about it on a show a couple of weeks ago. We're like, look, man, we used to not talk down about college players because they're in college. Look, man, you're making double, triple what I'm making a year, brother. Like, we're gonna have to chat this thing out now, and that's the highs and the lows of what comes with the NIL, right? You've got to deal with this if you're a Georgia, any football player, not just Georgia. In any player, you have to be able to kind of face the fire now that's in play. Kevin, man, I appreciate you a ton, man. You need to come back on, man. This is the first time. First time?
No, I've been on before. I've just been on hiatus, man. I'm busy.
You haven't been on this show.
Where are you calling from?
I'm from Augusta, Georgia, but I live in Wilmington, Delaware now.
Okay.
Man.
Okay.
All right. Well, promise me this, Kevin. Please come back next week.
Yeah.
Will do, man.
Hey, appreciate you. Dude. I like Kevin.
That was Roddy.
I see Roddy here in the background of the studio. I'm glad he wasn't here when Kevin got on, because I might not be here anymore. So let's bring in Roddy. I didn't move you down, Lance. I didn't. That's just Roddy.
No, he
puts himself there.
I like this. I love the 7-2 right there.
Yeah.
Roddy, correct, right?
We've had a very interesting show. We've had a good bit of donations come through. Justin Farmer, Charles McDonald, CJ, Chris. It's been fun. There's a lot this team needs to work on. Obviously, a lot of blame that's getting thrown around, and I think I said it best earlier. I said you can pick your poison on the offensive side of the ball, right? You can blame Bobo, you can blame Beck, you can blame the wide receivers, you can blame the offensive line. But here's the thing: none of you would be wrong, right? Because they're all not great. So there's no wrong answer when you come to blame the offensive side of the ball, Roddy.
Yeah, and I do appreciate all the folks who were doing super chats. That helps. it makes a nice thing. I don't know why Auburn gets so many super chats. Screw Jay Tate and those sons of bitches. But this game, it's just complete meltdown, complete clusterfuck. Just you got outcoached both sides of the ball. You got outplayed on both sides of the ball. Kirby Smart talked about last week. You got to be able to run the ball, play good defense, and not turn the ball over. No few penalties. Well, you had some stupid penalties. You turned the ball over more times than you got it, and you couldn't play good defense. 10 points. When you finally did get going, you shot yourselves in the foot. You could have had even more turnovers than you absolutely did. You couldn't pass block. And again, my fault. Before the game, I told Dave, Georgia's going to lose this game. But you know how I get pessimistic before a game. But just based on seeing 30-some-odd years of football, 40-some-odd, however long I've been doing it, sometimes the team needs it more than you do. And they play that way.
I'm sorry, our Facebook comments are not coming in with pictures for whatever reason. But the Cheez-It commercial?
Yeah.
Who's feeling the cheesiest? This person writes, who's feeling the screeniest? I woke up feeling the screeniest, Coach. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Roddy. You were in the middle of it, but I was laughing at it.
No, that's good. Dude, I need jokes because this not for the offensive line. So when I say I felt that Georgia's going to lose this game, part of it was just nerves, and part of it was like, I mean, they need this, and Georgia has played poorly the last few games.
We've seen we said that earlier too. We said we've seen this coming, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we saw it coming against Ole Miss, but if all of your bad came to one game, you would lose a game like this, and all of their bad came to one game.
I guess, and so for the folks that were like, "Hey, calm down. They haven't lost a game yet. Oh, they've only lost one game. You're overreacting." for all the sky is falling people, they were borne out. They were correct, and that, like you said, if you have this happen, and I said that if Georgia turned the ball over too many times, they would lose, because you can't keep going into a game with 3 turnovers, and win those. You did it against Texas because you got 4 turnovers on your way.
Correct.
You let a garbage Florida team keep you tied to 7 minutes in the fourth quarter by turning the ball over and not playing great. You let Mississippi State score 31 on you. It's just – so you went into this one, you're like, okay, this is the game. Georgia's going to come out of their slump, and they're going to play like they did against Texas. They're on the road. Ole Miss is not that great. Ole Miss has beat up a bunch of terrible teams. Yes, they have the number 2 defense in the nation, but it's against some shit teams. No. That defensive line just absolutely destroyed your offensive line. They beat you in the trenches, and then you couldn't get past their garbage offensive line. They got a center that's terrible. You couldn't get to them. Now, the first drive you did, you blew right past them. I thought this is going to be a long day for Ole Miss. Those guys apparently went in, changed, came back, and were different players after that first drive. You couldn't get to them. And Glenn Schumann got out coached. Mike Bobo had no answers for, that offensive line just getting destroyed. And your players, I just put this on the board. It's already got a ton of responses on the dog vent at ugsports.com. I guess my take is everything went bad. I mean, there was a stupid kick that they missed a kickoff, and you started on your 14. Yeah. And then the next play, you get a penalty. And then you kick to them. They get it on the 50. Their backup quarterback drives down the field. It should be 14-0, but your backup quarterback gets in, and on a stupid play, a tipped ball should have been knocked to the ground. They should get off the field. You tip it right to them, and they go down the field and score. Now they're feeling some type of way. 7-7 Dart comes in. So without their best running back, without their best wide receiver, they schemed you. They outplayed you, and they were more intense and more physical. Heard a quick interview with Dylan Bell. And he said, they beat us. He said, they whipped our butts. Yeah, they did. And there's not a person on that sideline that can say otherwise. I guess your kicker did a good job, but it was not – it was an all-around – it was complimentary football, but it was complimentary the wrong way. The offense and defense had that first drive. The defense sets them up and the offense punches it in. That's complimentary football. But then thereafter, it just went to hell. And you
vastly fast.
The errors that we had seen throughout the year were repeated against a good team on the road, and you didn't do enough of the big plays to save yourself. You had very few explosive plays, and you gave up tons of explosives. So, and give credit to Ole Miss. I know we all want to say Georgia this, Georgia that. Ole Miss knew that you were going to be protecting the edges of the field because, Jackson Dart throws downfield. He throws on the perimeter. That's where all his big plays come. Georgia took away the perimeter. They ate the middle of the field alive.
Boy, tore it up.
Yeah.
And basically, he would take his time because remember, they started fast and it fell apart. Then he slowed down and he would look and say, okay, I got all these receivers out there. Where is the star? Okay, there's Janelle Aguero right there. Oh, wait, here's who's playing star here. And let's see, who's Chris Cole covering? Who's the linebacker covering? Who's Jalen Walker covering? Where do I have a linebacker or the star covering one of my guys? And that's where he went. And
were you listening to me on your way home?
I did tweet that in the middle of the game, so you probably read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, Lance, I want to get some other folks on though. So
no, you're good.
Free up your spot down there if you don't mind.
Yeah, you're good.
That was my point. It was just getting. Hey, see you, Lance. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Then offensively, it was I get the complaints against Mike Bobo, but when you can't run it. This is the best run defense in the nation, but they lead the nation in sacks and tackles for loss. And then when you do make good throws, your guys drop them. Georgia's now in sole possession in the entire nation. Number one in drop passes. Yeah. What the hell, James Coley? Mike, what are y'all teaching these kids? And I'm kind of banging on them, but it's just.
I mean, it's
they caught those passes last year.
Yeah.
So it's just a. I'll finish with this. Coaches got outcoached. The intensity wasn't matched. You had too many turnovers. But how many players have regressed? That's what I put on the board. How many players have regressed?
Whole offense.
Arson Beck's not better than he was last year. Ernest Green's not better than he was last year. Oscar Delp's not better than he was last year. Tate's been injured. Xavier Truss is a 15-yard penalty. He's not any better. Mike Morris, did he play it all today? Where's Michael Williams tonight?
Oh, God. He had one tackle, but that's a great point because I did not remember seeing him out there much at all.
I had to look to see if he participated. Where's the big play for Malachi Starks? Jalen Everett had kept him from getting explosive. And then again, they didn't attack you didn't see Everett and Humphreys being going after. They didn't go after Harris. They went after the star and linebackers, and it was just a good scheme. Schumann didn't adjust, and your players who, is Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, Christian Miller. Are any of those guys better on the defensive front? Chaz Chambliss, better.
Yeah, Ingram Dawkins. But I mean, it's better because we haven't seen them.
I mean, there's a few, but I'm just saying there's a lot of guys who you would think with one more year, and again, a lot of the same coaches. It's not like their coaches changed. There were 4 coaching vacancies filled, but it's not like it's been crazy there. I really think this team misses, and I put this in my first column, in my 3-2-1 column, in my prediction. I said it's going to be different not having Will Muschamp out there.
You think? I mean,
in-game adjustments.
Yeah.
He's there all week to help you game plan. But if they come out and do something that was different on film, that's a man who's seen a lot of football. And again, it all goes to Kirby. Kirby's the guy. But yeah, Johnny Ballgame, worst loss. I wanted to ask, is this the worst loss in recent memory? Barring anything that happened in 2016.
Yeah.
His first year, but 2017, that 2017 blow up at Auburn. Kirby Smart's 0-2 in Oxford.
Before we get the next guest on, you want to shout out a little bit real quick?
Yeah, I was kind of joking about taking all the freaking gummies in my little bag here, but yeah, these are the Delta 8 THC 250 milligram ones. Well, it's 250 milligrams in this whole thing. They're 50 milligrams each. They did this last year and they got it a little bit late, and it kind of I was a little sad, but they started the Rogue Shop advent calendar, so you can have one item a day. It's a little genius. I love it. The Rogue Shop. This is done by Richard, who's a big Texas fan, but he loves SEC football. Already texted me his commiseration. He's like, "What the hell was that?" But it's Richard and his wife, Charmaine. You can go to the website and you can actually speak with them. It's basically 2 people who run this whole thing. They're a nationwide company run by 2 folks. They make all this stuff. It's not done in China or something like that. So if you have chronic pain, you have chronic insomnia, or you want gummies to make you feel a whole lot better, definitely going to help me sleep tonight. Check out our friends at the Rogue Shop. It really helps if you guys use promo code Bulldogs10, BULLDOGS 10, because that shows them that we gave you that promo code and that you are ordering from their exposure on UGAsports.com. Does not hurt that you get 10% off. Now, if you're not sure what to get, when you go to the website down the bottom corner there, you'll see Charmaine's. She's 12 minutes ago. She's active. She's always on the site. You can always chat with her. She's a co-owner, co-founder. Check out our friends at the Rogue Shop. You will not be sorry that you did.
Love it. I love it. I love it. That advent calendar is genius. I hope that like the strong stuff though they put on weekdays or weekends rather, not like middle of the season.
Like these 50 milligram ones here.
Right. Yeah, they put that for you to open up on a Tuesday night. Like
if you take a whole one on a Monday morning, you're gonna be
right.
You ain't gonna be employed by Monday afternoon. Cut them in quarters. Wait 2 hours. Take one. Wait 2 hours. See what happens.
Let's bring on our man James Caraway. and then we'll get to. I see. Hold up, before we get to James, we'll bring James on because James is normally pretty fast. I see DDB. DDB's back there. He comments a lot. I think this will be his first time on the show, Roddy. So
He's
we'll try to
shit on the dog vent. We're gonna fight.
Yeah. We gotta get James in here first. There he is, the man. Where are you at? Out skiing in Aspen, Colorado, or something?
Backyard in San Diego.
Man, must be nice. Living the dream, brother. How are you?
Pissed.
What's your thoughts, man? Where do you go from here?
I mean, the offense is one thing. It's Kirby's defense, and CJ Allen has gotten worse. Starks has gotten worse. We have a Falcons-esque, pass rush. I mean, we can't cover the linebackers. They just pick out Aguero, pick out a linebacker, and this is Kirby's defense. And I really don't want to hear Muschamp is supposedly we got Muschamp Jr. and T-Rob, and he was such a big addition.
He's good for safeties, though. He can coach the safeties, but I'm just saying when it comes to scheme, there's not a replacement for Will Muschamp.
But that's what Kirby was, and
that was my point, James. Is Kirby relied on him for 2 years, 3 years, and you would see Kirby go over and they would talk. I mean, that's his guy. That's his. And you're right. It all does fall on Kirby. I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's having that extra. Hey, are we going for it here? Are we? What are your thoughts? You have a fellow SEC, two-time SEC head coach, as a sounding board. I think they miss him.
Well, then what's the answer for the pass rush? We haven't had a pass rush in years. We've been waiting 10 years for Michael Williams to break out. Every year this is the Michael year. They had one game against Texas. It was really one half, and that's the only time the pass rush has really showed up. Lane was kicking field goals because he knew how bad the offense was, but our defense got whipped. And what's really going to piss me off if, having to, I watch every show, Film Don't Lie, show on Tuesday, and it's going to be Ole Miss. What a great defense. And Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. And after we lost to Alabama, we had hear about how Milroe was the next Lamar Jackson, and they're not that good. And I'm just kind of sick of the excuses. Because preseason, this was the best O-line we ever had. The defense is great. We have a Heisman quarterback. So now we can't come 10 weeks later and say, well, we played tough teams. Yeah, but you're in the SEC. All the teams are tough, and everyone expected you to be the top dog. And really, there's only one spot left in the CFP for Georgia because Alabama's going to be ranked over Georgia no matter what because they beat them. So will Ole Miss. Texas schedule's so easy. They're a lock for the conference championship game. And then so there's room for 4 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams, and then you have your ACC, your Big 12, and your your non-power 4 team. So it's that 11 seed. So even if Georgia beats Tennessee, they got a road game against either the Big Ten championship game loser or the SEC championship game loser. And they haven't showed outside of one half against Texas that, they can go on a team and beat somebody on the road.
No, you're right. But we expected Ernest Green in year 2 to be better. You expected Micah Morris getting a lot more snaps and Dylan Fairchild to be better. Xavier Truss is coming back for his 17th year. Tate Ratledge, preseason, all SEC, almost unanimous first team selection. You lost one guy on your offensive line and you replaced him with one of the best athletes they've ever had. And you're like, okay, well, he's going to be playing between 2 really good guards, 3 really good guards. It has not happened. So again, I think the preseason projection of having a great offensive line was fair. Carson Beck set the single season completion record in his first year as a starter. You expected the game to even slow down more for him in year 2. It's like, okay, he's coming back. He's going to – we weren't the one that could put him on the Heisman list. The nation did. The pundits did. It wasn't anybody just at UGA Sports or just at any of our beat writers. This is nationwide, the perception. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying the expectations were here. What we're seeing is here. And I am finding it hard to explain why some of those players who had the same coaches as last year, who performed at such a high level this year, are performing a lot lower. I'm clueless, James. I really don't know.
That's my issue. And then, whatever, you have a bad year. I don't know what you look forward to next year and think this O-line's going to be better. The guys who can't play ahead of the guys we have now will have to play. We have a good center. What, we're going to start the 4 freshmen that we have committed at receiver? No. We have to bring in a brand new quarterback. Georgia's not going to spend the money to go get a Cam Ward like Miami did. So what are we looking forward to? Stacey Searles on this offensive line, has continuously gotten worse. So, I'm not just looking at this year, but moving forward with this offense, Humphreys is going to step up and be your guy at receiver. Like, they have no pros at all on the receiver. Maybe Dom Lovett's a 5th-round pick, but they have no one that's at least a 3rd-round pick playing on that offense. And I don't see anybody moving forward that's going to contribute next year that's going to do that either.
Each year they do go get guys in the transfer portal. I mean, you were expecting to have Ra Thomas this year.
I've continued to kind of beat the horn on that. I think that they were relying on him so much more heavily than any of us thought they were going to. And him not being there is terrible for this offense.
Exactly. You're expected to have Colby Young. You brought in a really good player. He looked good. You don't have him right now. Maybe get him back. London Humphreys, the kid's legit. But what happened today? Drops back. At some point, Coach was calling this out on the Watch Along show. You got London Humphreys and Ben Stanford. You're throwing to Stanford and Vandy transfers. That's who you're throwing to instead of Lawson Lucky, Oscar Delp, Dominic Lovett, Dylan Bell, and Arian Smith. The guys that got you here. And the minute one of them does something good, you yank his ass. You pull him right out. Who's in charge of these rotations? I just don't. I was about to use a wrong word there. I don't get it. And you say they don't have any NFL guys. I think Dylan Bell is. Every time he touches it, something magical happens. But he touches it, 4 times a game? It just – I'm with you. Optimistically, offensive line, I think you were right about, who's starting and some of these guys coming on. Some guys have gotten better. I disagree. I think C.J. Allen's playing a hell of a lot better than he ever did. He's had a huge game the other week. He's only getting better. Raylan Wilson's getting better. Maybe Jordan Hall finally gets a chance to play, and he can be a 5-star disruptor. Getting Justice Terry in here, I think he's going to commit to Georgia. Elijah Griffin, some of those guys. Again, tough to play as a true freshman. I'm with you. Getting Anthony Evans back from his hamstring, all of a sudden you see how fast he is. Nate Frazier's legit. Chauncey Bowens is legit. You have some playmakers, but you are going to have to get a new quarterback. Right now, I don't know if that's such a bad thing. I've been saying since the Alabama game, I just wanted a package for Gunnar Stockton to come in just to screw with him.
Why didn't? Well, I guess. James,
hey, the guy's coming in who can run it.
That'll be my last. I'll get out of here after that. Is okay. We can't block. We can't run block. We have no effective run game. We can't block the passer, so we can't throw downfield. All we can do is throw screens. Why not we put in a quarterback that has a run threat? At minimum, Gunnar can throw a screen pass. And
right, yeah, like
time to throw it downfield either. So let's put.
He's got a cannon.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're not asking Carson to throw it downfield either. So why not put? So that was I got a couple of texts from Georgia friends at the end of the game, and they were like, "Look, we've lost. Can we see what Gunnar could potentially like? There's 3 minutes left. Can we just see what he can do?" And this wasn't after the 15 point. This is when they got the ball back when they were down 18. Like, there's no way they're going to come back in the game, and you're still out there trying to throw screen passes with Carson Beck. Just let us see. Let even if it's terrible, right? Even if Gunnar Stockton goes out there and throws an interception on the first play, at least you can quiet the fan base and say, hey, that's why Carson's still out there. at the minimum, you're getting nothing from Carson going back out there when you're down 18. You can at least throw this guy in there and see, right? A lot of folks are saying like this guy, Dave Zago, not to single you out, but you're the first comment I saw. Says Gunner ain't it. Talk to people who have watched film. He is not it. Let us see for our own two eyes in a game, and let us just, if he's not it, then everybody will stop this. They'll stop this immediately.
Kirby thought Stetson wasn't it. He thought Fields wasn't it over Fromm. He thought JT Daniels was better than Stetson as well. So why not see it? He hasn't been, 100 out of 100 on his picks for QB.
So yeah, let us just see it, Roddy. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I'm with you. My thing is, especially when you're down 18, don't let your quarterback get hurt. And the fact they're getting back there in 2/10 of a second, knocking the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, your quarterback got strip fumble on the last play of the game on your offense, and that's your starting quarterback. What happens if his thumb gets hyperextended? When that happens.
First series of the games, Ole Miss quarterback gets banged up. It can happen. So I say put him in there. The threat of the run. Some of those guys pinning their ears back. It's like I've covered. You talk about people who have seen Gunner. I've covered more of his games than probably anybody that I know of. I've made that drive up to Raven countless times to see him. I watched him play. Every time I went to see him, he scored 6, 7, or 8 touchdowns. There was never a 5-touchdown game that he either didn't throw or run for. Now, granted, it was a very simple offense. It was quick reads. I'm fine with the simple offense.
What is this offense right now? It's the most simple thing you can see.
That's my point. So again, even I asked this and I was told we have they're trying, or the theory was, I'm gonna say this is the answer. The theory is you have to take care of your quarterback psyche. And I'm like, to hell with that. I'm not trying to, nothing against Carson, but you don't try to take care of your cornerback psyche. You don't try to take care of your safety's psyche or your defensive lineman's psyche or your center's psyche. If he's that much of a mental midget, pull his ass and put somebody in there who can take some criticism or who can take being yanked out. And ideally you say, hey, on the third series, we're going to pull this guy. You're going to come out and we're going to put in this package just to see what they do. Maybe we can get a check from it. Maybe they haven't prepared for a running quarterback. Now, I'm giving Carson all sorts of credit because he took off a couple times and he ran hard.
He played fine.
The guy, everyone wants to give him grief. Carson ain't it. Mike this. I'm like, this wasn't a Carson game. I don't have too many issues with him, what he did. If I'm a quarterback and those guys are in my face in a fraction of a second, that's not me. But he's not a runner. Put it in a runner just – I want to see Alabama adjust. I want to see Florida adjust. I want to see these teams adjust simply because what happens when Georgia's teeing off on somebody and we see them put in a running quarterback, all of a sudden that guy has 3 runs and they've moved 27 yards. At least they flipped the field because you weren't ready for a guy to, naked bootleg. So I just want that, James. I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking to break Carson's psyche. I'm just saying, look, brother, we have to use all of our weapons, and him as a runner is a weapon.
I think
here's another thing too, guys. Marcel Reed for Texas A&M came in, they won that game, right? The next week they started him, he looked terrible. I don't know, did they go back to Wegman today at Texas A&M? Doesn't matter, right? They saw the spark and they rode the spark. We can't even see if Gunner could potentially be a spark because there is no taking back out, like you said, Roddy, because you don't want to hurt his psyche. And I guess the question I have, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, Roddy, or not, and I don't think it would be a case, but when you're paying somebody as much as you're paying Carson Beck, is there a hey, we can't really take him out? Like we can't sit the guy that bought a Lambo and has a private jet deal. Like we can't do that.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you do pull him out and you ruin his confidence, you don't ruin it for that game.
Yeah, but
you could throw your whole season off. So I get the downside. I get why it's the third rail.
But you've also had 15 turnovers in 5 games, 11 interceptions. Like his confidence is
12 and 6 games. Yeah.
12 and 6 games. Yeah. His confidence is gone now completely anyway. And it's what do you do? how do you progress forward from here? And if it's not Gunnar Stockton, then what have you been preparing for this whole time? If Beck gets injured and everybody says Gunnar Stockton's not it, right? If Beck were, God forbid, to get injured, then you're saying that Georgia coaches are just going to throw the season away because they don't believe in Gunnar Stockton? No, I don't take that. Like that can't be true.
And my thing, James and Paul, is
they can't be that unprepared, Roddy.
If he gets hurt, you're going to go with Gunnar anyway.
Right.
How many snaps has Gunnar gotten this year?
0. I don't think he has. Has he? Maybe some. No. Did he play against? Did he play against Tennessee Tech?
I think so.
Did he
That's
pass?
I
don't think he. I don't
well,
think
the
he
point
had.
is, you expected this year, James, to your point about them being, we had all these high expectations. We expected Gunnar to get in some of these blowout games.
And at what point do you risk damaging the psyche of the rest of the offense by leaving Carson in there? And, you tell Carson, hey, we're not pulling you because you suck. Tom Brady couldn't sit back there and throw with this offensive line and your receivers not catching. But
that's fair. It's like, hey, it's not you, buddy. It's
right.
Not you. We see how little time you have. We see that you don't have a run game. And when you do hit these guys in the hands, they're dropping it. What else can we do? We can't run it. We can't throw and catch it. We can't. The only thing left is, hey, we'll have one extra hat than they do because our quarterback will be an active runner, And there was a play today where they handed to Cash Jones. Backside guy dropped him because there's no threat of Carson taking off and running. He crashed in immediately, dropped Cash Jones for a 2-yard loss. Zero threat. When your backside pursuit guy just comes flying in off the edge like that, he's not worried at all about Carson running. Now, what happened, I guess a quarter later, Carson took off, burned his ass. So, again, he's got it. And I don't know. I don't spend too much time talking about Carson because, to me, he wasn't the issue tonight.
No.
He did have an interception, but he got hit a lot. And thank God, less eye black. Still – dial it down.
At least he's in love. He's in love. That's all that matters, guys. Jeez,
that's mean as shit.
That's
mean as hell.
Hey,
Come on.
Before you go, James, I am going to get rid of you here in just a second. Gunnar did go 10 of 12 against Tennessee Tech for 90 yards. So I totally forgot that he did that, but that was there. So
hey, James as always, hang on. What we can do is have some people cycle back on if they want to. So.
Yeah, we can have James come back through. I appreciate you, James, more than you know, brother. You're the man.
Always a good time. Later, guys.
See you.
James came a little hot right there.
I don't blame him. Hey, this thing called the underreaction show.
Right. So Gunnar did. I totally forgot that he had 12 attempts against Tennessee Tech. I must have taken a nap or something when that happened because I do not remember that. But went 10 of 12 for 90 yards. All right. I rest my case. Will Simpson, he says, love is all we need. That's all we need, guys.
Will.
Got Jermaine in here. I see you, Jermaine. He says, heck, one more loss when we calling for Puglisi to play. The Jaden Rashada talk has heated up, especially seeing him sit next to Carson on the bench down there. That's heated up.
Let's address the photo running around of Carson Beck smiling on the sideline.
Okay, we might have different viewpoints on this, so go ahead.
I think it's nervous laughter.
I don't know. So I watched it pretty close because he did it. Here's the problem with it. Is
trying to take care of his psyche.
They showed him on the sidelines last week and Georgia was losing and he was smiling then too.
Yeah.
So it's 2 weeks in a row now where your team's losing, but you're on the sidelines smiling. People, I'm not saying you need to be on the sidelines like, all right, man, somebody come punch me in the head so I can start bleeding, right? But also, like, you're clearly laughing with whatever Rashada has told you, right? And shoot, Jaden Rashada might be the funniest guy on the team. Might be just a straight up comedian.
He could be. My thought is you're the camera's on you on the sideline. He's watched enough football to know that.
And you know he heard it last week too, Roddy, because he did the same thing last week. He was smiling on the sidelines when they were losing. So his circle told him about it.
Man, they could be. And so here's the thing: if he does it twice, and that to me tells me it's absolutely deliberate.
Yeah.
It's like oh no, I can't be seen to be smiling, but it's like if you're a positive person trying to be optimistic, you're like, hey man, we got this. Yeah, I'm gonna keep everybody up, but we're not gonna be over here. Do you remember the shot of the two Texas quarterbacks? They were just getting killed, and everybody's like,
Right.
no.
Right. Yeah.
You
The
don't
instant
want
meme.
that. So he's gonna be like, hey, I'm grinning. We're getting our asses kicked, but I get 0.7 of a second to get the ball off. This is great.
Yeah.
I'd see those cheerleaders smiling too throughout the whole game, even when they're losing by 28 points. They sit there and grin and.
Yeah, that's their job, though. I don't know if the quarterback's job is to be on the sideline smiling. Is it? I don't know. I think people will overinflate that, but also there is kind of like, dude, we're getting our asses handed to us, man, and your guys are out there fighting and clawing.
Serious.
Yeah, like be more serious, like be for real type deal.
I'm with you. I'm just saying.
So it's gonna be something that that pops up and pops out and more frequently now, because like I said, 2 games in a row now, he's been kind of just smiling. Jesus, Michael Kort. Did you put that on the screen? I can't, man. I can't read these. Let's bring on DDB, man. He talks all the time in the chat. I've never actually heard him talk on the show before. So let's bring him on. What's up, man?
What's happening, guys?
Man, doing all right, man.
Got a much better voice than I expected.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, Rody. Thank you. Man, rough game today, right? Jeez.
Hey.
Rough ain't, that's being polite.
I'm trying to stay optimistic, right?
See, he's smiling like Carson.
There we go. Yeah. So, man, I mean, where do you start with this game today? You mentioned earlier, like, in-game adjustments. I think that's definitely a big problem we have is, I mean, we're commonly known as, like, a second-half team, but, like, when do we kind of get away from that and start adjusting in real time? Like, if you know that the screens, after, like, one after another aren't working, why do we keep running the same things? Like, I get it's this kind of
what else can you run? What else can you run?
That's true too.
So that's the thing that people are like, why do they run screens? Why do they run screens? I'm like, because they know they can't. He's only got a fraction of a second. Sure. And I did this the other day with a friend of mine who I love dearly, but he has crapped on. He's just one of those negative guys that watches Georgia football.
Sure.
And he texts me every time, and he's like, even when Georgia's winning, it's not by enough. He's still mad about Stetson Bennett. I don't know. I don't get it. But I did this. I said, okay, how long does it take? You want one of those long passes? How long does it take you to get open? 30-yard pass. You go 3 seconds. I'm okay. Let's go. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. He goes, okay. When have you seen Carson Beck have that much time?
Never.
Oh, shit. And it's like it never dawned on him. Right. Now, against Florida, those guys protected, and Carson was able to do some stuff. He just threw bad passes because he was forcing it. Yeah. Today, he didn't force it, and he had no time. So it's like, damn it,
And I feel bad for Carson because, like, today, like, throughout the game, like, I was watching the live stream with Coach Don and everyone, and you just see constant comments about, like, Carson sucks. And I'm like, man, I thought he played pretty good today.
Kirby said the same. Now, Kirby defends his quarterback relentlessly.
Sure.
But what did he ask for, DDB, last week after the Florida game?
It's a good question. What did he ask for?
More from his wide receivers, right?
He called Kirby up after the game was over. They're in the locker room. Says, Carson Beck, get up here. This is your hometown.
Oh, yeah.
So you had and hey, everybody, Carson did not have the best game, but he came through when we needed him. 11 in a row, 12 of 14, 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. We
could play better around him.
Mm-hmm.
Did they play better around him tonight?
Absolutely not.
Kirby identified it last week. They had a week to work on it, and the shit didn't happen.
I mean, but this same problem has come up because, like, I mean, we've had a bye week, and then coming out of the bye week, they've looked terrible.
Worse.
Like, yeah, 100%. So, you guys also brought this up a little earlier too. Do you think we have a talent evaluation problem right now?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I think.
I mean, we're signing 4- and 5-star guys, and these guys are coming in and looking pretty bad. Like,
So we did this. Man, I don't know how long ago it's been. A few weeks, months, maybe. We looked into the guys Georgia signed on the offensive side of the ball, and a consensus top 50 player on the offensive side of the ball. The only one like the last 4 years is Nate Frazier. Now, there's been some outliers where like we at Rivals have had him listed higher, but as a consensus overall top 50 player on offense, there's only been one Kirby's had in the last 4 years. It's Nate Frazier. Now he could get a second one, and he hopefully tries to and keeps him in Talon Taylor, right, the wide receiver. He's a consensus. So that would be 2 in the last 5 years. But now, if you switch it up now, I think the problem is you look at these recruiting classes that Kirby brings in, and they're consistent, right? They're number 1, number 2 across the board. If you really dive deep into them, though, the top-rated stars are on the defensive side of the ball. They're not on the offensive side of the ball. They're fine. They got really lucky with Ladd McConkey, right? And I think that they're getting really lucky with a guy like Landon Roldan from North Oconee. They keyed in on him early. I think he's going to be a player. But that's where they've succeeded on the offensive side of the ball, is finding the gems and finding the diamonds in the rough, if you will, and creating gems. But in terms of overall offensive guys, the only top 50 guy is Nate Frazier. And so that makes it tough when you're looking through kind of this offensive side of the ball. Now, Dom Lovett, I don't know what he was ranked coming out of high school. He was a hell of a transfer addition coming from Mizzou, right? Dylan Bell was a 4-star at Rivals. Arian Smith, I want to say, was a 4-star too, Roddy, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, all these guys that are playing were at least 4-star caliber guys. But when you really break it down, then you get that elite level talent. The only one on the team right now is Nate Frazier. So,
but even like in the transfer portal, so Dom Lovett came over. He was all SEC, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, dude, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Yeah.
What's the issue? I mean,
I don't know.
JT Daniels.
How many times do you target him?
Can't miss 5-star.
We're through to him nonstop.
And he can't do anything. Like,
yeah. Here's the thing. Dom has a big catch. They watch him go to the sideline.
Yeah, I don't understand the subbing. Like, every play we're subbing. Like, how do you build the rhythm when you're in one play out the next?
I don't know. And it's like, you're not worried about the transfer portal. You know you're going to lose 25 kids in the transfer portal. Let them fucking go if they want to go. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
get with the
guys are going to win you the game.
Get with your best players. I get it. It drives me crazy. I will say this, some inside baseball stuff. Georgia's best, when they signed all those number 1 classes, to me, the best talent analyst I've ever seen. He's in Oregon right now. His name's Marshall Malchow.
Yeah, he's good.
By far the best in the business. His replacement left Georgia 2 years ago. That guy's phenomenal. James Ellis is good for Georgia. But you're getting, to me, it's like if you have Nick Saban and Nick Saban tree, you have Nick Saban, then like Kirby Smart, then the next guy. You're 2 steps removed from Nick Saban. Marshall Malchow, to me, is the Nick Saban of talent analyst. And then, you go another guy, then you get to James. As you're on 3 or 4 people away, even though they're from the same tree, you're getting away from the source. So, again, Kirby and those guys they're great talent analysts. They see them, but you're right. They don't get a ton of guys on offense. And
this is
I got it, Paul. I got to throw us on the fire. Just because we have them as a 4 or 5-star doesn't mean they're a 4 or 5-star.
Correct. Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, I mean,
hey.
but here's the thing. If I told you that you were going to limit Ole Miss to 28 points and Jackson Dart to 199 yards and 1 touchdown,
I'd say Georgia wins.
You would say Georgia wins, right? So, like,
if you said 28 points, I'd be like, no. But if you told me 199 yards and 1 touchdown, I'd be like, okay, Georgia.
I think 28 points. I think they still could win that, but it's just there's not guys on the offensive side to take care of it.
But the people over here in the comment section were saying that defense was different. That was like playing a Georgia defense.
Yeah,
we haven't had the shoe on the other foot in years. We forgot what it's like to be smothered and covered and chunked and topped and just get your ass kicked by another defense that you just can't do anything against. So,
yeah, Perkins, Nolan, Prince, the transfer from Florida. I mean, Jared Ivey transfer from I think he was at Tech. He's a Georgia kid. Georgia didn't offer him. He went to Tech.
Remember this: 3 of Georgia's last drives, they're long drives. One, you go down the field, they hold you to a field goal. The next 2 are in basically turnovers. You know,
Do you think that's
you
the issue,
drove
right?
70 yards, you drove 66 yards, and you still didn't score because you had a fumble, and then you had a well, they call it turnover on downs, but the ball was picked. You know, when it was batted, that should have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
Was Ivy the one that knocked it sideways?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Great play call. Carson Beck throws it. Batted pass. I guess he's too short, but
What was your opinion on Bobo today?
my opinion on Bobo is I don't know enough. When people say, why don't you criticize Bobo? I don't know what the play call was.
Right.
I don't mean that to let him off the hook, but Carson Beck goes to the line of scrimmage and changes the play a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what will Kirby Smart say after the game? He got us into the right play calls. When he defended his quarterback last week, Trinity Clark, I guarantee, will remember this. You know, Eddie from Ackworth will remember this. Hawaii Dog will remember this. He said there were 3 plays on that last drive that nobody knows the checks that Carson Beck made to get us into the right plays. Because if you knew that, then you'd counter it and it'd be an interception.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, if I don't know what the play call originally was, I don't know whether or not Carson changed it, I don't know if it's Mike's fault or Carson's fault. And even then, when Ernest Green misses the damn block, that's not Mike's fault.
Yeah.
Now, there were times I'm like, Glenn Schumann, you prepared to stop them on the perimeter. They went to the middle of the field. They waited to see when you blitzed, and wherever you blitzed, the guy would run to that spot, they'd throw it to him, and they just gash you over and over again. I know what your play call was, but then if they beat you on the right play call, that's on you. But when you have the right play call and your guy misses the tackle, well, that's not on you, Glenn Schumann. So that's how I look at it. It's like, if I can know, it's easier to know on defense than on offense. And that's why I'm like, I don't try to criticize the coaches too much, because I coach kids, you know, and I'm like, I tell them to do the right thing. They do it 100 times right. And then we get to a game and they piss down their leg. And I'm like, ain't my fault, man. I told you what to do.
So is that kind of what happened tonight, you think? Because here's the biggest issue I had, because I remember in the first half, a graphic came on the screen where it said that Jackson Dart was 1 for 5 in the game when blitzed, and he was 8 for 9 when not blitzed. And then for the rest of the game, we just kept sending 3 or 4. Why are we not putting pressure? If we can't get home with 3 or 4, then you have to.
It changed because they
consequences with it, right?
They ran that A-gap blitz constantly, and wherever Georgia departed from, you'd see the tight end or one receiver go to that area, and that's exactly where Dart would throw it.
So how do you stop it?
It stopped. He just started absolutely destroying them on blitzes.
So then
So
what
they
do
had
you
to start playing? They had to start covering some of the underneath stuff. Because again, remember, his whole thing was he's the long bomb thrower. Did he throw anything in the air over 20 yards?
Everything was over the middle.
And then they would catch it, and then they would run for 27 yards.
Like 20 yards apiece in the run game up the middle. So, I mean.
Just to bring up the 2 guys that were the spark for Ole Miss on defense, Chris Paul Jr., he was a class of 2021 linebacker out of Crisp County. Georgia did not offer him. He signed with Arkansas and transferred to Ole Miss. Jared Ivey, 2020 defensive end out of North Gwinnett. Georgia also did not offer him, went to Tech, and then transferred to Ole Miss. So 2 guys in Georgia's backyard. Obviously, they evaluated them, but they played big for Ole Miss tonight. So just thought I'd throw that in there.
Hey, there was a let's call this defense what it is. I call it the Venerian Guard, one of the most elite mercenary groups in the history of the world. This is the best defense money could buy. And I'm not, it's legal. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. They went out and bought it. That's why I would like to see Georgia be able to do the same thing. You said, hey, James was on. James Carraway said, we're not going to go out and buy a big time quarterback. You might have to, but I will say I know people who have put up big money after a loss, saying, "Look, we can't let this happen again." I know a guy gave $1 million after Georgia lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game. He's like, I don't like this feeling, so go do it. And hey, guess who flipped on signing day? KJ Bolden. The idea is, right now, as much as we dislike it, the NIL game matters. You point out all those players, Paul. who had the biggest war chest to go get players? Ole Miss and Ohio State.
Ole Miss was up there, yeah.
And who's got the best defense in the nation right now? Ole Miss.
That's crazy.
At least in sacks and tackles for loss.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy to say. Yeah.
Texas.
And you know what? If you're getting all those sacks and tackles for loss, DDB, what does that do for your secondary?
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. Their secondary is not that great, but we didn't even get a chance to see them because they didn't have to work. They were out there. They didn't have to work at all. DDB, man, I appreciate you calling in. I want to touch on. I don't want to touch on him. I want to get him on the show. This isn't a Diddy party, DDB. To calm down.
He's got a big bottle of baby oil back there. I can see.
Yeah. Where's the Johnson's baby oil at? No, DDB, we appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for calling in, and we appreciate all the comments.
Give him the invitation to come on next week too.
Oh yeah, I mean, he knows he's invited back, but please come back.
I wish I had that facial hair though.
Shoot, it's back, man. It's back.
Yeah, you wish you had this, DDB.
Yeah.
I want something hetero like DDB. I don't want what you got.
Jesus, DDB, man, we appreciate you, bro.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
He's all dark and looks good. Mine's all gray and shitty.
Yeah, see, mine's like red. I don't know why.
Let's make fun of Trinity's beard when he comes on.
Yeah, let's do it. Trinity, what's up, man?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
All right, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm trying to flex my little beard a little bit. I got, I trimmed it up. I trimmed it up a little bit.
Yeah, let's.
I appreciate it, fellas. Thank you. All right. My biggest thing, because everybody has been saying all the right things, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are a very in tune fan base, and we keep it real, you know what I'm saying? And I haven't really heard this take, and I feel like we lack real leadership. And all the players that we lost this past year, John Dumas Johnson, he was our leader of the linebacker. Number one, gone. We lost how many safeties and cornerbacks?
Well, 3 starters.
3 starters, all good leaders. Yes, we had Malachi, but Malachi wasn't relied on as a leader, right?
True.
Okay. D-line, I mean, every year we lose starters and even our second string players. Michael has always been the up and comer, but he's also been hurt too. You know what I'm saying? We lose people in the transfer portal all the time. Our O-line, that's the one position where I'm kind of shocked the most, because we really rotate at least 6 linemen every year. And Ernest Green and Oscar Delp are my 2 most disappointing players on this whole entire roster. Because people forget Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers, they were both gone for like 5 or 6 games last year. And Carson Beck was still slinging that thing, right? So people keep on saying, oh, we lost. And guess what? Oscar Delp filled in great. That's why we were so hyped up. And it just seems like he lost. I don't know what kind of sauce he lost. It's like, yo, you just forgot. Like, the effort is poor blocking.
He missed on one.
Yes, and
Trinity, do you have are you listening to us on another device?
Yes, I have my tablet on. It's off now. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Am I good now?
It's kind of echoing a little bit, but yeah, make your point again, my man.
Okay, so I was saying is that our leaders in our positions that we lost. Our positions that we lost with great leadership, it's just been terrible. Also, Carson Beck, I feel like he took way too long to start on this team. When Stetson Bennett came with the team, when he had great talent around him, outside of his very first year, where he came in after like in the Arkansas game, but he's played with great players. He played I think that was the last year with Pickens. So he had that. He had A.D. Mitchell. Of course, you have our 2 great tight ends in Bowers and I can't think of his name, but he's with the Steelers now. Right. So Stetson Bennett actually played with supreme talent, and we never had to rely on Stetson as we do Carson. And the run game was way more secure. And also, people, I haven't heard that. We also lost Dale McGee. Dale McGee has been a stalwart for how many years? And we act like we was just supposed to replace him, and it was going to be we're still Georgia U. He's been here with the Mark Richt days. He has always been consistent with Kirby Smart. Again, leadership. What'd you say, Roddy, about Will Muschamp? Leadership. Yes, he is a control assistant, but he is great with his on-field presence. That's chemistry. That it's a lot of chemistry and leadership that we lost that people aren't really pointing out.
Sorry, I think I muted you for a second there, Trinity. Let me address that real quick. You're right about. I'm going to mute you real quick. You're right about loss of leadership. Kirby always says, I'm looking for leadership. This team's resilient. We got some good leaders, but there is a difference. Not having Cedric Van Pran out there, that's huge on your defensive line. That's not a shot against Jared Wilson. It's just you got a 3-year starter, all SEC guy. He's big. Having Laster, Kamari on the edge. It's like one side of the field shut down. We can play man on that side at least, or we can put him on their best receiver and know he's going to get a tie. Tyke at the star. He's great in coverage and he's great against the run. Undersized, but hell, he made it to the NFL. Javon Bullard just laying the wood out there. Some of his hits, guys know he's coming. He's scared. But losing Dale McGee, I hadn't really thought about that. That's a great point. I'd mentioned just schematically wise, scheme wise, when they put something new on film, they attack the middle of the field, which Ole Miss had not done. They attack down the edges. They attack the perimeter. They got these great receivers, and they go to the edges. This time they're like, okay, that's what they're going to stop. Let's do something different. Will Muschamp corrects against that, but I do want to address your the leadership issue. Somebody asked me, why do I think some of these guys have regressed, or what's missing? And I don't know, Paul, you may have to help me with this. I don't know how to put this into words. But I almost feel like everybody has their own individual NIL deal. Everybody has their responsibility. Everybody has their lane. Everybody has their assignment. And they go out and they're like, I got to do my job. I got to take care of my thing. I got to take care of my branding. They're not just focused on themselves. They're like, I'm going to do my thing. But there's no one who's overseeing everybody else's, and there's not overlap. So if one guy misses, and that's what we saw earlier. Remember we sat here on the Kentucky game, and we pointed out on 3 drives, one guy missing a block, another guy dropping the ball, and another guy having a penalty, and how that stopped those drives. You only had 8 drives in the whole thing. But one penalty, each individual guy made a mistake, and it stopped your drive. And last year, and especially those 2 championship years, you felt that the overlap of when they were healthy, Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint or Ladd McConkey or Amarius Mims, that was big. And I think that some of these guys are like, hey, it's finally my time. Georgia's playing a lot of guys that were beat out by better players last year. They are of the same age. It's not like, hey, the senior moved on and he was beating out a freshman. Now the freshman's playing a lot. Xavier Truss wasn't your starter. Carson Beck was beaten out by Stetson Bennett.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Trinity, one last hoorah from you before we let you roll out, my friend, because we got we got 4 or 5 more people waiting.
Nothing pretty much. I know everybody, has a lot to say, but I really appreciate y'all, and hopefully I can come back, next week. I love y'all. Again, I watch all the content. I'm a really huge fan of y'all. But yeah, man, I feel like
you brought some stuff that I hadn't thought about. I'm going to have to
I hadn't thought about Dell yet.
And Dell McGee, damn, how the hell did we forget about Dell?
Yeah,
Because he's at Georgia State. He's at Georgia State.
But we talk about I guess I'm focused completely on the fact that Georgia can't run the ball, and I've been thinking offensive line. And to me, the one position they got better was at running back with the addition of Trevor Etienne, Nate Frazier doing what he does. But Nate fumbled the ball, twice this week?
Yeah.
He doesn't follow his blocks. He runs side to side instead of north and south because he's still trying to do the shit he did in high school. Dell wouldn't put up with that crap. Dell also pulled guys and never played the hot hand. It drove me crazy how he.
He never would have let Etienne get 19
something about the way he coached that you didn't see a whole lot of fumbles.
Can I say one thing? Also, when I say leadership, guess who Del McGee had, and they stayed a really long time. He had Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel to really mentor DeAndre Swift. And then Swift stayed longer than he could have left earlier. And with this running back, with our running backs now, they don't have leadership. Yes, Trevor Etienne, he's nice, but he's only been here half a year. He's not ingrained into the Georgia program and Georgia running backs. And one last thing is that I feel like with Carson Beck, I don't want to talk about off the field things. I know he's been pressing, but also Tate Ratledge is not looking good. Like he's not looking healthy. Let me say that. He just needs to sit down, and hopefully we can get him back for the playoff, because I do believe we'll make it. And I think Georgia would be the only 10-3 team or a 3-loss team that will make the playoff. I just got a feeling because of the Georgia brand and how strong it is. And with this season, no one is a lock for anything. Georgia Tech just beat Miami. You know what I'm saying? So there is no perfect team. There is no dominant team this year, in my opinion. I think this is Georgia's team. This is Georgia's year to figure out their kinks. And I have a theory, but I'll save it for another call-in show. But just figure out their kinks and work on the little things. All right. Love y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Appreciate it, bro.
Trinity, come back tomorrow night and join them on the Sunday show.
So here's my thought, Roddy. And you asked, and I think it's an accountability issue with the team. I think it's a culture. This team just doesn't look like teams of the past where they were cohesive, where of course they're brothers and all that, and they fight with each other, going through practices and stuff. It doesn't feel like this team is connected as years past, and
but they are. We love our connection. I'm like,
well, of course, yeah. He's not going to come out and say, "Damn, we really, these guys don't hang out." They don't hang out after games, stuff like that.
Hey, I'm still looking for leaders to step up. We have a dearth of leadership. He's called it out.
Yeah, I don't see and maybe it starts with Kirby not calling out Carson Beck, and the other players are like, well, if he's not going to call him out after throwing 3 picks in the press conference or in the locker room, he's going to pat him on the back. Then what do I got to do? I can mess up too.
You go by the field and he calls Carson out relentlessly.
Sure, but that's the perception, right? So,
well, they know the cameras are on in the locker room, so I don't think that matters. But again, it's just so you see why I'm having a hard time expressing it, because somebody asked me, why do you think these guys have regressed? And I almost feel like it's like everybody at your job and your business, you got these roofers. If each guy's doing his thing, you advance the roofer who does a little bit more. Here at UGA Sports, I've got, I got a statistician, I got a historian, I got a recruiting writer, I got a beat writer, I got a second recruiting writer, I've got a photographer. But when the photographer is helping us shoot video and the historian is uploading the videos and my internet guy is saying, hey, here's an idea that we can do, and everybody's helping to do each other's jobs while still being fantastic at their own. When you got a guy who's like, I'm the guy that gets all the stuff onto the roof, I'm the guy I'm the safety guy, but I'm also helping us get off this job fast. When guys are doing theirs plus more, and you feel like if I'm having a down day, in other words, you've seen guys walk off the field in high school go, I had 2 sacks. I did my job. Y'all lost that game. I almost feel that Georgia's not quite there, but
that's what and it's tough to pinpoint, and both of us do this for a living. We talk for a living. I'm stumbling upon my words right now because I don't know how to express it, because you're right. It's not to that point where it's like, hey man, I locked down number 7 out there. That was their best receiver. I locked him down. I did my part. It's not to that point yet, but It sure feels like it's close to that. But the problem is, you locked him down, but also you didn't help when that guy was cutting over the middle of the field. You could have tackled him. And the teams previously, that guy tackled that guy. And
exactly. We were able to point out, it was like, hey, did you see the block that Ladd McConkey threw on the edge to spring this guy? He laid his ass out, even though he's only 135 pounds.
And then tonight, there's guys that are blocking out on the outside and they get completely destroyed. And a left tackle who's supposed to be a high draft pick and a tight end who's supposed to be a draft pick, you had a guy just run around both of them. Yeah.
You didn't get a hit on him and you didn't chip him. Both of them got beat, and your quarterback.
And they both looked at each other, and they've been there a long time. I know the exact play you're talking about. Oscar Delpiner. They both looked at each other like
on your first drive.
Yeah, they both looked at each other like it was your job.
Who was supposed to Dominic Lovett is supposed to back off the line of scrimmage so that he's eligible. Yet an illegal man downfield on a completed pass. Stupid crap like that. I'm like, no, you can't even say, hey, I did my job.
But these are also guys that have been around for a really long time.
You're this far into the season. You're this far in the season. You're not catching adjustments from your quarterback.
Yeah. So it's like I said, you want to place the blame on any of the offensive side, you can, and then unfortunately, it's starting to leak onto the defensive side as well. They just don't get roasted enough because they do make some plays and they keep Georgia in it at times. And they limit their team to field goals and things like that. And the offensive coordinator is the number one guy that you talk shit about the most. It doesn't matter where. Always. High school, college, NFL, that's the number one look. The defensive coordinator does not get near the criticism, even if his defense is as bad. It's a lot of disappointment right now from a lot of fans. And what will make us even more disappointed, finish that bottle, is bringing Eddie from Ackworth on because he's next in line. That will really disappoint and get rid of whoever else is watching us. So here goes the fan base. Rody, we'll bring him on. Here he is.
We had a good show.
Well, yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Good night. Good show.
Hey, we also stay on Hawaii Dog and Caleb. We see you, and Ben.
Yeah.
We'll try to get Eddie out of here fast.
Yeah. All adjusted his beard earlier. That really made a difference, man. You're looking sharp now that you adjusted your beard. That looks good. Yes. When you do that, that's primo. That's great. By the way, guys, Bama's back. They're out there dominating LSU. So, and
what's
I disagree
the
with. It's now 21-6. So they're just
what quarter?
Kicking their ass. Second.
Ooh. Jesus. Coach called that one.
Yep. So, and the previous calls have been great tonight. Great guests y'all have had on. But the previous guy said, if Georgia's 10-3, I see them getting in the playoffs. No. If Bama's sitting there at 10-3, they're going ahead of us. So I don't even want to talk about that.
Well, real quick, he watches all of our shows. Trinity's great. And he actually heard, was it Paul Feinbaum or Kirk? One of our national commentators said Georgia would be the only team that he could see getting in at 10-3, basically based on what they've done. My problem is if Georgia loses and they do go 10-3, you haven't looked good enough. That Alabama loss are like, okay, they barely lost that game, but you look like shit tonight.
Well,
last week.
And if you lose the third game, it's going to be to either Tennessee at home or to Georgia Tech. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot of banging on the offense. I get it. We only scored 10 points. I totally understand that. But you guys really haven't talked much about the defense. A little bit. I thought the game was lost when we blasted the first series. I said, oh my gosh, we are right in the backfield harassing Dart. We injured him. He goes out of the game, get an interception. I'm like, oh my God, and score a touchdown. This is a glorious start. It's exactly what you wanted. The backup quarterback comes in. I'm like, here comes a mistake. He's going to do something stupid. And he went down the field. Now, granted, he had a tip pass. It was a lucky catch by the tight end. I get that, Roddy. But all that being aside, he was throwing missiles through our defense. Boom, 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 down the field. That's when the game was lost. We couldn't even stop their backup quarterback on defense. Where the hell are 13 and 11? I know they made some plays. They're not in the backfield. Where are those guys? I thought they were supposed to be taking over football games. Guys, we have played – how many halves of football have we played this year? I know that y'all aren't good at math, but go ahead and do
18.
that.
18.
Okay. Do you know how many good halves we've had?
4?
3? Maybe 4. You could maybe say one of those patsies, okay? That's horrible. If you equate that to batting average, you're sitting on the bench. I could see this coming. I'm not even mad about this football game tonight. I watched this game and I'm like, you could see this coming, Paul. This is not a well-rounded. I'm not going to say they're a bad football team because I don't think they're a bad football team.
No,
they're not
that's a bridge too far.
Of course it is. I agree with you, Roddy. They're not a well-rounded football team. There's issues across the board. And tonight, it wasn't Carson Beck. All the Carson Beck haters can stop it. It was coaching. It was offensive line. It was defensive line. It was the defensive backs. It was the running backs. It was everything tonight. Disaster.
Yeah. Yep. I agree 100%. And like when I first came on, I said, you got outplayed, you got outcoached, you got what did Kirby say? You have to play with intensity. And it always sounds like almost a coaching cliche. But you can see when Georgia flips that switch and goes intense. They did that in the last 7 minutes against Florida. It's like, oh, shit, we let them stick around too long. We're tied at 20. Screw this. Flip the switch, zoom down the field. And then the third quarter, they came out. First play, backing up. It's like, what the hell? They drive the field, get a field goal. Drive the field again, looking good. Fumble. It's like, oh, come on. Drive the field again, long drive. What was that, 15 plays or something?
Yeah.
And batted ball. Should have been a touchdown. So they turned that intensity on, but why is that the intensity was there for the defense on the first series?
That's what I was going to say.
Then they schematically changed everything after the Dart got hurt. Brilliant coaching there. Again, they were out-coached. But why couldn't you get off some of the blocks? Why couldn't you get to the quarterback? And why do you let guys run wide open? It's just –
And we got a quarterback. He's basically on one leg. He's not mobile. He's limping on the sidelines, and he's torching us for 20 yards at a time. And he's still keeping the ball and running it for 4 and 5 positive yards. I'm sorry. The offense is putrid. 10 points is inexcusable, but I thought the defense was awful. 2 years ago, you probably win this game, 13-10 or something? I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? The offense doesn't matter. We have none of that going on this year. Nothing. And I'll say this, guys. Let's just say we make the playoffs, okay? Let's say we get in. Is this team going anywhere? Are we doing anything? I'm honestly asking the two of you. Are we? Roddy, I know what you're going to say, but is this team really going to make any noise in the playoffs?
It could. Now it also depends on who they play, who they match up against. They have to match up against Ole Miss again. No, probably not. If they get to play against Texas again, I
don't know. I kind of disagree with you. I think if we play Ole Miss again, I think we could beat them. I think we could beat this team. I do.
Let them play Penn State.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I love that matchup. Yeah,
you play Penn State in the first round, or you play BYU.
BYU.
Yeah, you don't think they can beat BYU? Like this team can still win football games. It's just right now, it's the SEC is a tough son of a bitch to get through.
Well, and the show is overreaction, and I see people fire everybody. The season's over. I'm like, fuck you, people. The season is not over. You lost a game. This is the first regular season loss to a team not named Alabama in Kirby Smart since COVID. Let's keep it. And people say, well, they can't do it. They're just terrible. They're not as good. I made this point after the Alabama game. My theory when I came on here, I said, name me the position where Georgia's gotten better. And I made the same thing. A lot of the guys who were playing are guys who were beaten out by other guys the same age or younger. Amarius Mims versus Xavier Truss. Xavier Truss is your starting guy, but he couldn't beat out Amarius Mims. So is that a regression? I don't know. And he's not even playing as good as he normally does. Ernest Green, we thought would get better. A lot of these guys we thought would get better. They haven't. Some have. Got to be excited with how the Jalen Walker's playing this year. Got to be excited about C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson. Those guys are coming on. You got some guys who are looking really good. But if you get into the playoffs, it's like when we play blackjack, and a lot of people are like, do you hit a 13 versus the dealer's 10? And everyone goes, yeah, you have to. I'm like, no, you don't. Because if I get a 10, what do? They pick up my cards and take my money off the table. If the dealer flips it over and they got 16, they have to hit themselves and they bust. Just because we both busted, I still lose. So I stay on the table. So you can get to the playoffs, you don't know what's going to happen. And you are the team that despite 3 turnovers against Texas, you beat the brakes off Texas. Texas is a good team. You shit the bed against Alabama in the first half, but you came back and took the lead. If not for a fluke bobbled ball, you beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and Alabama's a good team. So you let them line up against Ole Miss again and be like, hey, you know what? They don't just throw down the sides of the field. They throw over the middle. Let's scheme for that. We'll take that away from them. We'll get Tate Ratledge. Kirby Smart said hardly practiced this week. He had to play a lot. You saw Drew Bobo out there at right guard. You saw, and again, not banging on Drew, but this wasn't a Tate Ratledge 100% snaps of the game. Xavier Truss beside him. They had all sorts of combinations going on out there. Trevor Etienne banged up. You had to play Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier dropped the ball, put the ball on the ground twice. If you're healthier and you are at least able to play, maybe host a game, I think you can go somewhere in the playoffs. It is a wide open year. Georgia plays up and down. Right now they're playing down, but we've seen them play up. You're right. 4 quarters out of 18, not great. But you got to think at some point they snap out of it.
But one last thing. It's always – everything is so difficult for us. It's so hard. I don't understand. I'm watching Ole Miss on offense, and it's like wide open. Guy has nobody around him. Wide open slant. There's 20 yards. And we're throwing into double coverage, and Bell's having to make a great catch on the side to pick up 10 yards, and he's down right there.
Why?
Everything is so difficult for this team. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't get it.
Very, very simple. How much time did the Ole Miss quarterback have versus how much time did Carson Beck have?
I will push back on you a little bit on that because Beck did have some time. He wasn't – now, there was a lot of hurries there, but there were some plays where he had a lot of time. And he's looking, he checked down, every time it seemed like. And when he's doing that, why not just throw the ball downfield a little bit?
When he has time,
there is zero threat of us throwing the ball.
When he has time, why does he have time?
Probably because the running back's helping out, right? I don't know.
What? So where are the other 7 guys?
Yeah.
They're covered. That's why it's hard. It's a hard game. I'm not ripping on you. I love you, Eddie. I'm just saying it's there's a flip side to everything, and I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. But when they brought the heat, you have open receivers, but you don't have time to get to them. And they brought the heat, and they did to Carson Beck what Georgia did to Quentin Ewers. Got him off his mark.
Yep.
Pressured him.
Well, Ole Miss just kicked our ass. They just kicked our
top
ass
to bottom. Hell, even in these stupid kicking games, special teams.
Yeah.
Peyton Woodring, great job. You didn't have a great punt on your first one. You gave it to him on the 50. You pinned him on the 1-yard line. You stopped on the first 2 drives, and you give up a crossing route for a 16-yarder on 3rd and 10. It's like, damn it, you had them pinned back, and you still couldn't get it. And their guy hit 5 of 5 field goals. And when he missed the kickoff, you fielded it on the 14.
Right. I know. That was terrible. You brought up who's actually gotten better this year. I'll tell you one that's been a disappointment to me is Brett Thorson. He was a weapon for us last year. He's not making those booming punts, it seems, this year to get us out of trouble.
He did for a while.
But he did early in the season.
Recently.
Yeah. That past few games has been a little tough. He did have the one down at the one tonight.
That was a great punt, but that wasn't one of those boom. I'm talking about the boomers where you need, and
where the cameraman's looking at the guy and then they both have to go back because it's gone 24 yards.
Who was the Florida punter last week?
He was awesome.
Jesus. But yeah, that's what you're looking for. So I'm with you there. Not saying he regressed. To me, punting out of your own end zone stuff, you're on a shortened.
KC said his leg's probably tired.
Brilliant. That's a great point.
Jesus, Casey's the best.
He gave up 2 yards on a return tonight. I was like, well, there goes. Well, I don't know if that was the first two, but I heard that.
I think that was the first two. It's been a long time.
Was it really?
Oh shit! He gave up return yards tonight.
There were 2 return yards tonight. I heard it. I was like, ooh, we gave up.
That might be the first time in 2 years.
A year and a half. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we'll talk more about it tomorrow night, Eddie. I want to go through the rest of these, but I appreciate you as always, man. And I don't know.
No words. We just don't understand.
After watching that, it's tough. I've had words for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm running out of them because it's you weren't expecting this at all.
No. Yeah, you were.
I called it before it happened.
You had it in the back of your head, right? And you knew that if this team had all of its bad stacked up in one game, you would lose to anybody. We just haven't seen all of the bad stack up in one game, and tonight we did. The whole offense was bad. The defensive line couldn't get home, which made the secondary have to cover longer. Linebackers didn't look great. So you stack all these things together, and then you lose 28-10 against Ole Miss. It's their biggest win in probably program history, if not definitely in the Lane Kiffin era. They stormed the field with 16 seconds left to go. They were so excited, which was kind of Bush League, but I get it. You thought the game was over. You don't know how to count, so it's okay. But it was a tough game, and they got punched in the mouth by Ole Miss, and we're used to seeing Georgia come back after being punched in the mouth and then punching and never giving up. Tonight, I'm not saying they gave up, but they got punched in the mouth. They didn't get back up. And we haven't seen that out of a Georgia team in a long, long time. So hopefully this isn't the sign of things to come, right, against Tennessee and Georgia Tech. But we definitely saw them not get up from the punches that they were hit with tonight. So
thank you, boys. Sorry I killed the ratings.
Well, yeah, they're all gone, Eddie. Thank you so much. It's just us three now. That's it. See ya.
Thanks, Eddie.
Oh, man.
Hey, folks, if y'all would share this, we would greatly appreciate it. And hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 50,000 subscribers.
Can you hear these cars going by my house, or is that just me? It sounds like a freaking drag race out here. I don't know what's going on. No, they're gone now. I'll let you know next time one pops
I turned up the volume. I cranked it up to see if I could.
It's been like 7 or 8 cars. It sounds like the freaking Formula One race outside my house.
They're all running to the liquor store before it closes to get some of the Hunker spirit.
So Dogs 85 said that they hear it. Okay, all right. Okay. James, I'm not putting that on the screen. Where can you find this ASW? I can't do it, dude.
James, stop it. That's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, James, I can't do that.
ASW Distillery is it's a distillery that 5 of the 6 founders are UGA grads. So it's distilled by dogs for dogs. And they had we talked about where's the new players going to come from? Where's the excitement? Where's the fix going to come? Where's the hope? Well, the hope's in recruiting. Georgia has a good recruiting class. They got 3 big commitments this week, one of which was CJ Wiley. They also flipped Rashawn Deakins from Georgia Tech, very hell of an athlete. And they got Vance Spafford, a crazy.
Where'd he come from? That kid's a freak.
He's an absolute monster from Mission Viejo, California. 5'10", but man, he is lightning in a bottle. Another wide receiver. So he's the number 37 player in the nation. nation. So 2 huge wide receivers in this committed to Georgia this week, plus a defensive back. So how does Georgia get good wide receivers and good defensive linemen and offensive tackles? Well, you got to have a good NIL program. And our friends at Hunker Bourbon and Hunker Vodka and ASW Distillery, they created some drinks, some liquors, some spirits for the Georgia fan base to have at their tailgates, to have at their house, to have at their post-game overreaction show. And part of the proceeds go to Georgia's NIL efforts. So if you want to get a CJ Wiley, you have to have a good NIL program. People can say that's not fair, and I hate it, and I can't stand the fact that Ole Miss went out and bought a defense. Well, they absolutely did, and that defense whipped Georgia's ass today. And I'm not going to ask any of you to say, hey, do what a buddy of mine did, which was give $1 million to Georgia's NIL fund. You don't have to do that, but you can stop buying Tito's vodka and buy Hunker vodka. You can stop buying Maker's Mark or, Jim Beam and get Hunker Bourbon, the proceeds of which will go to Georgia's NIL efforts. And if you look up aswdistillery.com and click on the Hunker label, you can find out where you can get it, where it's close to you. And if you're outside Georgia, they have a link. So you don't have to be just in the state of Georgia to get it. So reach out to them. You'll be very glad that you did.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We got John said, can you read my super chat? And I didn't read it because I think we're on a rant. But he says, Rody, I wish my wife loved me like you love Bobo.
Ooh, I don't think you could handle that, brother.
Yeah. Jermaine says, scroll up and read my long message. All right, Jermaine, just for you. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, I do want to address this because DDB27 on the board is like, well, I mentioned on the board, I said my first thought is, how many Georgia players have regressed this year? And he's like, here's Rody. Rody loves Bobo. He won't criticize him. I'm like, I don't know. I can criticize him, but I'll just ask anybody, John included, what would you have called?
Tonight, not much different. I think what is the problem though is there are other nights where you feel like other stuff could have been called, and so it's accumulation. And
here's the thing, and John and DDB and anybody that's Mike Bobo, again, I don't like Mike and I are not friends. You'd be like, oh well, you know all these coaches. I'm like, yeah, I know a few of them. I'm not friends with Stacy Searles. I'm not friends with Mike Bobo. I knew Mike. I covered him when I was at UGA. I've covered him as a journalist. My kid and his went head to head when they were growing up. So I'm like, we don't hang out. I'm not friends with anyone on the coaching staff. If I think they deserve criticism, I'll give it. I ripped Shane Beamer when I didn't think he could do it. Same with James Coley or hell, Todd Monk in his first year. What I don't like is, well, he didn't win when he was here before. I'm like, well, fuck, nobody did. Well, he didn't. He couldn't do it under Rick. Well, yeah. Well, Rick didn't either, and Rick's a hell of a coach.
Jermaine King says, proof UGA is cursed. Dog win back-to-back natties and are ready to become the new college football kings. And then college football completely changes with NIL, wide open transfer portal, conference realignment, and the 12-team playoff. Yeah, you're right. And parity is cashed in on college football. So
this is a guy who was on the board of regents.
What, you just got a text or something?
Yeah. He says, good seeing you in Jacksonville last week. What are some actionable things we can do after that loss? Is it the parity with the portal and the NIL catching up?
Can you tell him, hey, go back and watch Paul's show from 2 years ago when he said this was going to happen? Lots of love, Rody.
But
it's true though. It's true.
Georgia beats his ass all the time. What do they do in this new NIL era? As Jermaine's pointing out, they don't have a defense. They go out and buy one. Now they have the best defense.
Yeah, that's what it is, and you're going to see this every year. The problem is Georgia's going to have to stay competitive and be able to bring in, the same type kids and used to be, right? And it's very clear Alabama did it a ton. Kirby did it when he was first here and they made that magical run. You could tell guys, hey, sit behind this guy for 2 or 3 years, and I promise you I'll get you in the league and you'll be a first-round pick too. Now, other teams can say, hey, come start for me for 2 or 3 years and get your name out that way, and I'll get you to the league as well. And I can also make you some money in the meantime. You don't have to wait until Jalen Carter goes to the NFL to get your shot in Azir Stackhouse. You can come over here and play for me. Instead, I'll pay you, and you'll make money doing it. You'll be able to play in that time frame. It's a different type of football now, and that's what we have to learn and realize. So you're going to see this a lot. So
yeah, where's Jermaine Johnson? Where'd Bear Alexander go? Where'd Jermaine Burton? Although that's not a good one. A.D. Mitchell.
But all these guys you're naming, except for Bear, who isn't in the draft yet, are in the NFL too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So but you used to be able to keep them all here. So my point is double fold. One, Georgia and Alabama used to be able to stack them like cordwood to steal something from Coach Donnan.
Yeah.
So you had those 4 and 5 stars, and you, on a night like tonight, when you played your shittiest game in years, you out-talented the team across from you. You would beat an Ole Miss. Georgia normally beats the crap out of Ole Miss. It's not competitive. You beat a Kentucky. Kentucky's able to spend money and keep a fantastic nose guard who took away your run game. Georgia couldn't do anything against them. You play a Missouri team with a Luther Burden and a Williams Nwaneri. There's no way years past Missouri recruited and landed a Luther Burden, So the flip side of that is Georgia's able to go out and get, a Dom Lovett, a Ra Thomas. They need to go out and get an Adam Anderson, a Zizo Jalari. I'd like to see.
So the flip of that is I don't think Aziz and Adam Anderson are any better than Jalen Walker and Michael Williams.
Oh, I do.
I think they're
different.
No, I think they're very much the same. I think they're very much the same. It's just
neither one of them get to the quarterback like Aziz did.
So maybe Aziz is a little bit different, but Jalen Walker
plays. None of them are as fast as Adams was, but he's not playing. My point is, you don't have that. Where's your Harold Perkins? That South Carolina guy, the Dylan, whatever, that freshman that's so fast.
But I guess what I was getting at with that was you don't think Michael could be Adam Anderson? You don't think Jalen Walker could be Aziz? I mean, they're rated the same coming out of high school. They're rated.
Yeah, it's almost a completely different skill set to me.
I'm just saying, like they seem like they could be those guys. Is what I'm getting at. One guy that could be that guy is Hawaii Dog. If we'll turn his camera back on, because he's been waiting for a while. I want to get him real quick.
Yeah, so for some reason he is getting bumped down.
Well, he's taking himself out of the queue, is what he's doing. So he's getting frustrated, taking himself out, and then he's turning his camera off.
I want to hear from Hawaii Dog, man.
I know, right? I want to get him in there too.
It might still be sunny in Hawaii.
I think it is. I saw it. While we wait, though, we can get Dane in here to take my place so I can go use the Porter John. And then also bring in Caleb Peavy. So we do a 4-box there, but see what happens is I get up out of here and then Dane has to instantly become the host. See? So that's how it happens. I'll be right.
I'm trained to handle such situations. I'm not going to hang out long here because I know we have a lot of people on. But I mean, quickly, Caleb, I guess let's get your thoughts on this. What needs to happen for Georgia for this not to happen again?
Man, yeah, it took me a second to cool off after tonight. Like, I can tell you this, it has been pre-championship since the last time I was like really screaming and like yelling at the TV and getting mad and all of that. I've been always kind of chill. I'm like, Georgia's going to come back. I didn't have that feeling tonight. Like, the crazy thing is when you look at the 5 field goals, this game could have been a lot worse. But 2 plays early in the game really, to me, I think summarized. If we would have had, it was little things that just small little things that shifted the momentum in that game. The first was when they kicked that missed kick and Cash couldn't really field it, and we didn't have good field position, and then we got pushed back in, and then they got the ball in the 50 and basically kicked a field goal. That was 3 points. The second was when they converted on that 4th down and went down and scored a touchdown. And that was 10 points. Those were 2 little tiny things that really made a big impact early in the game, because we just make those normal, everyday, routine fly ball kind of situations of getting off the field, keep playing discipline. And that game could look completely different. To give you some words, Rodney, you weren't on the last time I was on. I'm a marketing guy, so I like.
Oh, good. I need that.
I like words. I feel like UGA has been kind of gutted, and nobody really saw it because we're so talented. But with all the coaching staff, people leaving, and then we don't have those guys like the Nick Chubbs, like the Nolans, to come back and they're like, I'm going to lead this team. We're going to take it back. This is our team. We're doing it. And I know you guys have talked about leadership. And that's definitely something I feel like has kind of shifted. The other part of that.
You have those, Caleb. The issue is that they're not your best players in terms of talent. That's the sweet spot,
right.
Is when those guys, because Chaz Chambliss is that for this team. Dan Jackson is that for this team.
That's right. But that's right.
Jalen Walker for sure is, and he has the talent to back it up. But
on defense, the only guy on offense that I see that's that way is the newcomer with ETN. He's the only guy that I've seen that's like that. And I don't think he's got the stats this year to feel like he could go to the league next year, but he is a running back, so we'll see how that goes.
Caleb, I will say Tate Ratledge could be that guy, but he's been hurt most.
That's right.
Long, so it's tough to be. And Coach Donovan made this point, saying, "Hey, I think it'll be good to have Tate Ratledge out there. He's a leader, but it's tough to lead when you're not on the field." And we talked about this right before the game started. We're like, it's something about walking out, being in the huddle, look at these guys, or you go up to the line and you see them doing something exotic, and you turn to your first-year starter center who has to call the protection, who has to shift the protection, and he goes, "Hey, that's the mic." He makes the mic designation call, and you're like, you bump him and go,
Yep. And we saw that bad tonight. I mean, people were talking about Tate like not looking good and all of that. I'm like, guys, they hit the gaps that our center and our guard weren't even in. Like, and they both were just like standing there. That had nothing to do with his health. Like that was, I think it's a mixture between preparation, communication. Like those are 2 issues. And
you definitely thought he had to think that Truss was picking that guy up. He's like, "Hey, we're playing gap scheme, and my gap's empty, so I'm going to climb." And the guy goes through Truss's gap, but Truss is probably thinking, "Hell, we're zone blocking." So I
mean, 2 of them, they just ran right through.
But and I want to interrupt you real quick. Keep staying on this thing. Those individual moments are what win and lose you ball games. And Kirby Smart says that all the time. He goes, and after a loss, he'll say, "Guys, we're 1 or 2 plays away from winning that game." He'll also say the same thing about the opposing team. He says they are 1 or 2 plays away from being undefeated. And we all kind of go, "Oh, Kirby's doing that. I got a lot of respect, thing." Kirby's telling you the damn truth.
He always does. And I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to even talk about a little bit is what's the narrative of UGA's program right now and how can he take control of it? Because I mean,
gutted is good.
Social media has like gone nuts. And I mean, he's going to be like, we're going to block it out, hats off to them. Going back to, there was a Jordan Davis quote that he burned somebody way back when when we played against Tech. And we were beating their brains out. But what really got to him is that he politely was just like, "Y'all aren't prepared." And the Tech guy was like, that just hit me in the heart. And I feel like we weren't prepared.
No.
We were not ready for that. And
I think you got really outcoached today.
And here's the thing, Rodney. I feel like for me personally, Kirby's all about talent. And I appreciate that because he even said in his talks this week about we just rate the players and we see how we can get them as much time on the field and then we build around that. And Monken was a genius at that. I mean, we played a lot of double tight end stuff and we had Big O and Brock at the same time. And like, that's just, I mean, we built an entire identity around that, but we haven't really had an identity that we can run with, both either injuries or personnel shifts. Who's going to be that guy? And I think that what makes Ole Miss so effective is, even though I don't think that we should just have one scheme that we play, their backup quarterback came in, and I feel like their offense is a lot more simple than we think it is. And he just was like, shoom, 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 just eating us alive. And I don't know, like, Kirby obviously would not put Gunner in if he didn't feel like we could go win the game. And I think that he's putting a lot of trust in Beck to make those calls. And he even said that he only missed like 5 calls against the game last week and made 5 bad decisions. And I'm sitting there going, well, man, I feel like there's a lot of really bad decisions on communication, on shifting, on blocking schemes and calling out of certain things. Tonight, we threw that screen to the left side of the field, and the linebacker safety, I don't know what position he was playing, he immediately took off as soon as the play started and made the tackle.
Well, he saw Dylan Everett backing up, and he says, okay, I'm going to sell out for this. Now, here's the thing. If you pump fake that, your tight end is running wide ass open. So sometimes it's just simple as, hey, we think that's what they're going to do, and we're going to sell out for it. And you saw in the third quarter, there's a couple of times Carson faked that, and they bit hard on it. You know, he faked to the right to Nate Frazier. They went back the other way because he's like, okay, they're biting on this. So they made their adjustments.
Here's one thing that nobody's talked about. I like surprising you, right?
Okay.
The comm system. Last year, we've seen a regression with Bobo and Beck this year. Last year, there was no comm system. So Beck was basically forced to make decisions on the field. This year, he has a comm system. Things are being shifted. It feels like there's no urgency at the line. People aren't making moves, and we just feel like we're going through the motions. I wonder how much that's affected the decision-making on the field with the comms. And you would think that like it would make it better because they're telling them what to do. But in reality, it's worse. Like that's a variable that wasn't there last year with the comms.
Well, they can't talk to them with 15 seconds or less.
Right. I know. But like, I mean, within 15 seconds, you almost kind of sort of know what the personnel is on the defense side. And they're probably going to tell him, you know, here's a couple of things that you should be looking for. But I am curious, you know, has that had any kind of impact at all with Beck in his development? I don't know. I mean, it
didn't hurt Ole Miss's backup quarterback when he came in and was lights out. I mean, he had coaches in his ear too. So yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with it. To me, this is you don't have the best 2 playmakers on last year's team. So ultimately, and you don't have guys behind them that were nearly that good with McConkey and Bowers, and that's evident. To me, ultimately in this game, stuff like this, games like this, cast a floodlight on all of your flaws. And specifically when Georgia is without Tate Ratledge and Micah Morris, the offensive line all of a sudden was very, very average. And Ole Miss's defensive line, which I think is good, I didn't think it was as good as it ended up being today. I knew Walter Nolan was a monster, and that's a guy that Georgia probably needed to go get in the portal, if we're honest. That's where some of the NIL dollars should have gone, but that was a lot of money. What Georgia did to Texas, Ole Miss did to Georgia. And the way to get around that is to have a quarterback that can move. And when Georgia was beginning to cave the pocket in on Dart, boom, scramble, even with a bad foot, scramble for 15 yards. Georgia can't do that. And one of the things that we may have...
Carson did it twice.
Rody, he's not a running threat. Come on. Like, he did it twice. No.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a threat.
Dart ran for 50 yards. He's the leading rusher on the team right now with the running back out.
I'm not saying... I didn't say he's running that. I'm saying he did it twice.
Okay, yeah. So he did it twice. Look,
I'm just literally saying he did it twice. It's 2 times more than we've seen every other game this entire year.
And I gave him credit for it because I want to give him credit and he ran hard and dove head first, you know. So,
but
you're right.
I see where Dane's coming from, though. Even with Carson's, right. Even with Carson's running, it doesn't. I don't know how to say this. It doesn't look like running to me. It doesn't look like it looks like
It's
he's
the
just
last option for an ostrich.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like trying to get away from a dog or something like that. And he's not running that fast.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go ultimate POS on you, Paul?
Sure.
This is year 8 of Kirby Smart. Is that right? Eighth
sure.
season of Kirby?
No, this is year 9.
Okay, year 9. His entire tenure, quarterback selection has not been good. And you can say, oh, Stetson Bennett. He was the 4th choice. Freaking got bailed out by Stetson Bennett. Remove the Stetson Bennett years, there's a non-impressive quarterback play at Georgia.
Yeah, well, you take away his 2 national championships, he's a shitty coach.
Okay, but he didn't select that quarterback until he selected him. It was 4th string going in.
But he also had 3 other quarterbacks that he could have played instead of him, but he didn't.
He picked Dwan Mathis over him.
Yeah, and
picked
Carson
JT Daniels over him.
And he stuck with Carson until Stetson saved him. He stayed with Stetson until Stetson broke his shoulder against Florida.
He's so terrified to say anything slightly negative about Carson in public. And like, look, Carson Beck wasn't the reason Georgia lost this game, but he also is not capable of playing the hero ball that's needed to win a game like this. And the really, really good quarterbacks can find a way to keep this competitive. And for Georgia in an SEC game, even with all the things that go wrong, like if you only score 10 points, your quarterback's not that great.
Yeah, I mean, especially the last few years, I definitely agree with that. Like, I mean, and here's the thing. Beck has all the things. I think his weakest point is in his vision, to be honest with you. Like, when he threw that pass underneath that we got stuffed and had to kick a field goal, Lucky was wide open in the end zone. All he had to do is just throw it to the back line, and Lucky was back there just like, why are you – like, how did you not see me? And there have been a lot of moments like that this year. We didn't have any deep balls. The longest pass we had today was Cash Jones on the wheel route. We didn't even try play action. On defense, we didn't even we didn't do
play action.
Do what?
Play action.
There's a lot of play action.
Well, I'm talking about deep balls for deep balls.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do any like
didn't have time.
Never had time. People kept asking, why does Georgia keep running screens? What the hell else you gonna do?
Yeah.
You don't have but 3 seconds.
Well, and the one thing that was interesting on defense, I didn't see us doing our frontline shift as much as we normally do.
I don't think they did it at all really tonight, did they?
Which is maybe a first in years. But at the end of the day, like, I think that we're in a identity shift, both with the NIL, where we've had a gutted coaching staff and had a lot of leaders that were on the team go to the NFL. And it's going to be hard to change that right now for this year. Like, I don't see someone just stepping up and being like, you know what, I think I'm going to be a leader today and start being vocal and being fiery and, you know, chewing people out on the sidelines and all those different things. Like, it's probably not going to happen, but I do think that Kirby's going to figure something out along his way, and they're going to tie everybody's systems together. I feel like we've been out schemed a lot this year. And even on defense, it's like they knew where we were going to be in certain areas, and they would just pick us apart. Like tonight, we weren't getting pass rush, and the guys were just wide open across the field, like just completely wide open. I think that for the most part, they knew that that guy was going to be wide open. It was almost like a single route scheme that they were running.
And this was without their best receiver, without their top running back. This, like you said, this could have been way, way worse.
It could have been way worse. And but you know, like I believe that we have an elite team with a lot of talent, and I think that if Kirby can come up with a simple solution, if we can beat Texas the way that we beat Texas, he can find a way to win. But the guys are going to have to buy in, and they're going to have to realize that talent's not enough, and that they're going to have to do the things. I mean, this kind of reminds me back like there's a lot of things that happened pre-championship, like. You guys remember pre-2019 when we were talking about we don't have enough wide receiver depth. Everybody's dropping the ball. We have a quarterback, but nobody can do anything with that quarterback. We're not making the plays. And then Kirby went out and got Pickens, and we had a great that's when Bowers came in that year, and we got Nolan Smith and a lot of Trayvon Walker. Like a lot of really cool young leaders came in. I feel like at Georgia, you don't have to wait to be a senior to be a leader. I think that you can see it really fast and early in them. And we just don't have a lot of those vocal people on offense right now. And I think that Kirby, as he's starting to plan through not just talent, but planning through how his team dynamic is going to look, he's going to have some of those fiery guys. And Kirby himself hasn't been as fiery as he has been in years past. Like, I mean,
I disagree with that.
He took out Frazier, right? And I'm like, you're yelling at Frazier for doing the throat slash.
You're
right?
not walking by the practice fields if you say
okay,
that.
well, sure, but I'm talking about game time. Like game time. I mean, from what I've seen from
he almost killed Frazier last week.
Well, I know he almost killed Frazier, right? And Frazier went and scored a touchdown, and he's given everything he's got. And then guys are dropping balls. Why are we not on those guys? I don't understand why I mean, you drop a ball, you're out. See it.
For who?
Or you fumble it a couple times, you're out too.
For who?
Yeah, for who? I know. That's the question. Like that's the problem. The problem is we just don't have the depth for that. You know,
if Nitro Tuggle or Sokovia White was playing better than Humphreys, I think they'd probably be playing more.
That's true.
If they had Jaden Riddell ready to go for Jurasic, he'd probably play more. He's not playing more.
One thing I'll tell you that I is the unsung hero of last year's team was perimeter blocking, and Jack Saint was a very, very great perimeter blocker, and so was McConkey. And those things were huge intangibles last year. Huge intangibles. And we just don't have as much of that right now. And it's frustrating, but we still have – the crazy thing is we still have the talent. We still have the team. And all we have to do is win 2 more games and just get through it. If we can get into the playoffs with two losses, I think Kirby's track record. How long is there a break? I don't think we're going to go to the SEC championship, so there will be a break. Kirby's track record after a break of time is really good going into those games, and so I do wonder if we do have that break, if he would be able to figure out a way. Because Jordan Davis a few years ago, remember, he was running like crazy going into that bowl game, and he realized he was out of shape. So I do wonder if there's some culture shifts that he could do towards the end of the season if we can just get through Tennessee.
I just think there's some roster holes here, because how many defensive lines in the SEC would you take over Georgia's? Because I'm probably up to 4 or 5.
Yeah,
I'd take Ole Miss's right now.
Missouri,
I'd definitely take South Carolina's.
South Carolina, Ole Miss, obviously.
If I get Dion, I'm probably taking Kentucky.
Yeah, there's a good bit of them. Hey,
I'll
Caleb, man, I want to move on to the next guy.
The number one in drops in the country is not a good fit.
We're number one.
Hey, Paul, I'm going to slide out of here too.
Yeah,
let people get in
good
here.
Seeing you, brother.
Hey, appreciate you guys.
Thanks for dinner, Dave.
See you, Caleb. Thank you, sir.
I like him. He's no Trinity, but he's a marketing guy, which I can appreciate.
Let's get Jeremy Neighbors in here, then we get Big John, and we get old Big Ben. Jeremy always comes on. He says, "I'm going to be quick, guys," and he says his 3 comments and he's gone. So I want to get him while he's got it. What's up, Jeremy?
Yeah, man, I'll try to be quick. And I haven't got to get on much this year at all. Actually, I know, I've got to get on since first game.
No.
Actually,
been missing you, brother.
Yeah, man. I right now we just need to worry about one game at a time. Playoffs. I don't think I can entertain the thought of a playoff right now because after watching Tech do what they did today, and I know Miami's been, living the life of a cat, but that's, to me, 4 losses is not off the table for this team the way they're, especially if they have any kind of repeat performance of today.
Oh, dude, no. And that is an overreaction, Jeremy. I'm hoping it's an overreaction.
Tech provides a problem Tech provides an issue that was a problem for them last year with a running quarterback. I know he's no Jalen Milroe, but he provides that running threat that's giving them fits like it did today.
No, you're right. And a guy who knows what Georgia's defense does too.
I mean, we'll worry about Tech later. Yeah, my biggest thing, man, to me is still this is the 9th game, right? I believe 9 games in. Man, the mental mistakes that just continue to happen. Something that happened today that just irked me, and the fact that we're 9 games in and it is still happening. Where they got flagged for the receiver being on the line that covered up Jurasic, and Jurasic went out. Just mental mistakes like that are still happening
Yep.
9 games in are driving me up the wall, and that's why to me this team is not
Offensive
on the
lineman
par
lining up in
of
the
those
backfield.
championships. I mean, when you're still making mental mistakes like that this late into the season, that's not good.
No, it's not.
You're a big
I want to
football back because your dumbass right tackle lines up in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to say on that play that Urasek was covered up. Was it Arian Smith? I don't
think
know
it was Smith. I think it was
he looked over to the ref and signaled to him. And I guess the ref just didn't signal back, and Smith didn't catch. He didn't signal back, because I remember vividly seeing him move up there, and he signaled to him like, "Hey, I'm on," and whatever happened, right? But I guess he just didn't see, because normally when you signal, the ref, if it's a good ref, right? I say ref, side judge, whatever it is. Well,
Line judge.
Yeah, line judge. He'll confirm to you, yeah, you're good, or you're not. Maybe he didn't confirm to him and he just stayed there. But again, it's a terrible mental mistake that shouldn't happen this far into the season, especially if you've been around the program for so long, right?
Well, and again, to me, just the discipline that this program prides itself on, and the mental, I don't know, maybe just because like y'all were talking about, just there's shortcomings all across the team right now, that just everything is just being magnified. And when something like that breakdown happens, it just gets magnified, and it just makes it seem that much worse. And I know something else, Carson, I'm sure it's been hit on. Carson was not the problem today. I know he had his turnovers, but a lot of them, again, those that interception was deflected or tipped. The strip sack. I mean, he's Ernest Grain, man. And then that one play where it ended up being Delp. I think it was the Perkins kid came off the line, and I don't think Delp even got a hand on him.
No, yeah, he flew by Delp and Green right there.
Part of that's supposed to be speed to power, but if you just speed your way back there, you never have to go to power. So.
Right.
So, and just that, and then the drops. I mean, I did not realize that. Maybe I did not realize that we were that close to having the most drops in the country. I did not realize that.
I knew it was a lot. I didn't know that they were second in the country, and then they overtook, what was it, UAB, wasn't it?
Yeah, UAB.
I didn't know that. I knew it was a lot, but I figured all teams kind of had
I've been hammering that every week.
And I
didn't know it was that badly, but Jeremy, when I say this, it is because the last guy that was on was talking about small plays, a kick that they missed the kick, and, Cash can't get on until like 14. And then the next play, you don't line up right. And all of a sudden you're on your own 9, and, or you got those guys, you pin them on the 1, 2 plays to get nothing. Then on their 3rd and 10, they pick up a 16-yard slant route. Those drop passes are just as big as a turnover. Well, not maybe a turnover, but a penalty, a sack. They're drive killers. They're absolute drive killers. And you've had 28 of them in 9 games. Again, I'm no math genius, but isn't that close to maybe 3 a game?
Yeah, 3 a game.
Yeah, 3 a game. Yeah.
So, and then 3 drives, because here's the thing: those passes aren't 15, 5 yards, 3 yards, all behind the line of scrimmage. Those are passes down the field. So,
like the one that hit Urasek in his face mask.
No, I wanted to go kick the crap out of something on that when he dropped that pass.
And he was a great block on that first touchdown, to score for you. So I'm like, you're awesome for CP.
What was the score when that pass hit him in the face mask? It was still very attainable, wasn't it? I want to say it was.
It was like 16. It may have been 16-10.
I think it was. I think it was 16-10, and that pass hit him. I mean, he could have been gone, and it just. Yeah.
I tell you, it reminded me of an old of a saying that one of my summer ball coaches used to throw to us every once in a while. Was you couldn't catch AIDS in a whorehouse with a fistful of hundreds.
That's about it. But
that's the saying.
That's the reason I stick with the whole. I've been keeping up with that and missed tackles.
Missed tackles. Well, and then and kind of what you were just alluding to, Roddy. I was that thought hit me earlier on that drive. I don't know what the stats are on their third down defense is, but it just seemed to me at the most inopportune times they cannot get off the field on third down this year. Now, and granted, with that, Lane Kiffin is the present day Hal Mummy of this conference. He's more than likely going to go for it if he's got decent field position, but the third down defense to me has been lacking this year, where it's been great in years past.
Here's the crazy part. I'm looking at the drive statistics for Ole Miss. Their average third down distance was 8.9 yards, and they still converted a good handful of those. Whereas Georgia had average third down distance of 5.6. 3 and outs, 2 for Georgia, 3 and outs, 1 for Ole Miss. Georgia had 3 drives that were under a minute, whereas Ole Miss only had 1. So those little tiny things like that can kill you. What kills you too is when you have a 15 play drive and you turn it over on downs and don't get any points on it in the fourth quarter, and then you're really trying to scramble back into it. So, Jeremy, man, we appreciate you. Much love, my brother. Good seeing you.
Absolutely, man. Hopefully,
yeah. How old's the baby? Is the baby like 5 years old now?
Yeah. Speaking of that, there's one more coming in January. So,
brother, calm down, brother.
I know.
Calm down.
I know, man.
Mashallah.
I know that's what I keep getting told. Listen to me. I've told him. I said it's not so much quantity as it is efficiency. So
you're shooting, brother.
You and Paul Mahary, man, y'all don't let them women rest at all.
Yeah.
You all the Irish twins. Damn.
Yeah. That's awesome news, Jeremy. Congratulations, man.
All right, appreciate it, guys. All right, man. Y'all have a good one.
You too. Jeremy's got like 6 kids within like 5 and under. My man's shooting them out. He's worse than I am. Let's get Big John on here. He was on earlier, but he said he wanted to talk to you, Roddy.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Look at that mug. He's mad as hell.
Yeah, he's mad as hell.
Dude, better man than me. 6 kids.
No, I don't know if he's got 6, but he's got a shit ton of them, and they're all young as hell too.
You not know how that happens.
Same thing my father-in-law said. He said I couldn't pull a. What did he say? I couldn't pull a pizza out of an oven or something like that. I don't know.
And I appreciate you circling back, and I promise I'm not going to be. I have 2 things I want to hit. First is if LSU loses, they're out, correct? That's their 3rd loss. They're losing. But couldn't Georgia really be left out with 2 losses with all these 2-loss teams?
It depends. So I think after next week, I think it's a little too early to dive into that. And I'm not trying to get away from your question, but I think after next week we'll have a really good idea, because then there'll only be 2 games left. Next week will be kind of a deciding factor on where we see if 2-loss teams can actually realistically make it or not.
So, all right. So then, Roddy, I want to talk to you on something more philosophical, because you're the expert on NIL and all that stuff. All right. So I'll just say this. I think, like I said earlier, I think Kirby Smart is the best coach in the country. I really believe that. But I do believe, again, like I said earlier, me sitting in my kitchen with no experience to coaching in college, that he needs to have an epiphany like Nick Saban did. And offense needs to be a priority as far as like getting unstoppable people. Okay, so we hear all this. We hear all this about Georgia can fundraise like nobody's business and has kept up on facilities. How are we so behind in NIL? And then piggybacking on that, does he need to change his philosophy on when he gives big time NIL money? I know Caleb Downs was going to get it, but like we talked earlier this season, a kid like Ryan Williams would never be in the conversation because we don't give it on the front end. Does he need to change his philosophy on that as well?
Okay. First question first. How's Georgia behind when they have so many millions? The NIL can't come from Georgia.
Right.
But it can, but it can soon though, correct? They're passing something where they,
with the House agreement, they will be able to pay students, the student athletes. Now Georgia they have to come up with $24 million right off the bat. So it's an issue. That's why they raised ticket prices. It's like we got to come up with $24 million that we didn't have. It's not like they had 24 per year sitting around that they weren't using.
That's like the salary cap, right? That's kind of the salary.
Basically, yes, they're going to pay every student athlete will basically get a salary, and you're going to see some sports cut. You know, it's going to be a game changer. But even then, you'll still have NIL opportunities for players, unless the schools can come out and say, we buy up all of your NIL rights with the money we're paying you, which I don't think that'll ever fly. But you're still going to have those. You're still going to need a different NIL budget. So. The money can't come from UGA. It has to come from the fans. A lot of the fans, I have some buddies who've given a lot of money. They're great people. They're satisfied. They're not hungry. And I don't mean this in a mean way. My living is providing information to UGA fans, so I would never disparage them. But if you want to talk hungry, talk Ohio State. You lost 3 times to Michigan.
Yeah.
You're dying for it. Your Ole Miss, again, I wrote in my column, they haven't been relevant since we were all carrying around Banaka breath spray.
So you think if this is 2020 and this all happens, Georgia hasn't won a national championship in 40 years, it may have changed the narrative?
Georgia would have had the biggest NIL coffers of anybody in America.
Which is classic, which is just par for the course, unfortunately. Like, I wish and I'm not in a position to give millions to a collective. So doesn't that fall?
But you would have given something.
Oh yeah, of course. But
but have you given anything recently?
Me, yes.
Was it a lot, or would you give more in 2020?
It probably the old adage. It wasn't a drop in the bucket.
I'm not picking on you.
I know.
So you see, we're satisfied. We're not starving as a group of people who cover Georgia football or who root for Georgia football, like Ole Miss, like Florida, FSU, teams that haven't been relevant forever. Dylan Raiola, Nebraska, like, we used to be Nebraska, damn it, and they bring it. Oklahoma with their war chest. So the Georgia fans have not given. Same with Alabama. Alabama doesn't have a huge NIL war chest because they're just used to winning. So they're not hungry like that. The second thing, what was the second question?
Does he need?
Does Kirby need to change? I would say yes, but again, when you have a set budget, it's like, how do you resource that? So let's say we've got $100 budget. Maybe it's 100 million, but let's say it's 100,000, 100%. You got to take care of your quarterback who's going to come to you and say, I want more money to stick around another year. I need a good running back. This right tackle might go off to the league. I need to keep him. In other words, you can apply your money towards either the transfer portal and guys who may either go off or leave or go to the NFL, or you can put it on a big name kid who has not proven himself yet. Kirby does the former. The other schools who don't have those big names already on campus, like Ole Miss, they can go spend that money in the portal. They can spend a ton of money to get Prince. They can get Walter Nolan. They can get some of these big name guys. That's definitely possible. Georgia was going to get Caleb Downs. They were going to give him $30,000 a month. Ohio State, the kid was enrolled. I knew what class he was going to take. I knew where he was going to live. They gave him $100,000 a month. Not even double it. They tripled and a half, or triple and 3.1 times what Georgia was giving him. So, but long-winded answer to your question, Kirby is changing. He needed KJ Bolden. KJ Bolden is the only kid I know that's probably making more than, they all come in kind of equalish. He adjusted his thinking for KJ Bolden. We need that kid. So I think, and I was told this week, Kirby is prioritizing wide receivers. And what the hell happened this week? 2 wide receiver commits.
Right. I know.
So he is, I don't say, I can't read his mind, but I can say from the actions I've seen this week, yeah, you're not going to get the Aaron Gregory, that 2026 wide receiver that just went to Texas A&M. Again, a program with more money than sense. They got money to throw at a wide receiver. Yeah. Remember, they were the first ones to have that $30 million class. They're hungry. They're tired of being, not. insignificance.
Yeah. Do you know where Julian Lewis was today?
Where was Julian Lewis?
Indiana. Why are we out of the race? Is it? I mean, I like. Is it because of our track record for quarterback?
I don't know. I don't.
George ain't out of the juicy
Yeah.
race.
Yeah.
Hey, he's in our backyard. Like, you talk about an elite arm talent. I live here in Carrollton. He is unbelievable.
I've been there numerous times.
Well, keep watching him, Don. Keep watching him.
Nothing would make me happier.
Just keep watching him.
You know Tyler Sabo down there?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm not gonna. Tyler Sabo has some great stories about having to work the phones before the internet. Even at gymnastics meet when Coach Yocklin was the right there at courtside, he's calling in, said she was eating gymnastics. She used some colorful language coaching gymnastics. But now he's a legend here. But yeah, if we got Julian Lewis to commit to Georgia, that'd be unbelievable.
But again, that's it is a NIL issue. There's no question.
Yeah.
And I had a guy who last year when they lost, he gave Georgia $1 million. Now he's willing to give them even more. But they've been doing this 3-4 years now, and they keep coming to these big donors saying, look, hey, I need $6,000. They're like, look, I've already got guys advertising all my stuff. You know, eventually at some point you get donor fatigue because it's not spread out enough. And that's why we brought on personally a bunch of sponsors like Hunker and the Bulldog Snacks and the Red and Black Water. We're like, look, if we just get everybody in the Bulldog Nation to buy the same crackers, the same vodka, you could do what Tito's did. Tito's gave Texas $20 million.
Hey man, y'all are the experts. Y'all could raise a ton of money.
And again, it's not our job to do it. I mean, because that would make us look biased, but we're spreading the word.
If you would allow it, one game next year in Coach's basement with you guys for whatever you can raise.
Yeah.
I've said that, and I know he probably doesn't want people to. I get that, but I would pay a pretty penny to be able to do that, just to sit there as a fly on the wall.
I will say this. This is why I brook no criticism of Coach Donham.
Oh,
I know how much every coach on that staff reaches out to him, how much they talk to him, how many questions they ask him, how many times they ask him to come watch their kids in camp, and they listen to his advice. But I also see at his advanced age, that man works. He shakes hands and raises money for UGA, and UGA doesn't do shit for him, and it drives me crazy. They should be flying him to every championship game. He should have a suite in the stadium. He raises hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for UGA every year, especially in the NIL era, and doesn't get crap for it. Drives me nuts. He'll be mad I said that, but
he's a good one for sure. Every week. So hey,
if anybody says something about Coach Don, I'm like, you want to fight, motherfucker?
No,
I know you don't. I'm just saying that's why I'm like, do you understand the players that are here because he glad-handed a guy in South Georgia who wound up signing you a 5-star defensive tackle?
His football mind too, and he was coaches in late 70s.
I'm sorry.
How old's Coach? Mid 70s, late 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, and his football mind. He could, how many plays a game does he say they happen before they're coming? At least 5 a game. He knows the play coming.
Yeah, usually more than that. It's usually 5.5.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Paul, for letting me back on. I'll be able to sleep.
Good man. See you, John.
Is Hawaii Dog ever going to come on?
I don't think so. No.
No, I think I saw him pop on a second ago.
He's been doing it the whole time. So curious, right? They have this. While John was talking, I was looking for the rankings, right, on ESPN, and it said this all-state playoff predictor. So I said, all right, it's cool. I'll go do it. So it says choose one team to make the college football playoff. So I picked Georgia. And then it says choose the winner of these teams' toughest matchups. It's the finale, right? I picked Ole Miss to win because they did, obviously. It's not updated yet.
Yeah.
Then I picked Georgia versus Tennessee and Georgia Tech. And I said, it says, will Georgia win its conference championship game? I said, doesn't make the game. It calculates this probability, 99% chance Georgia makes the playoffs if they beat Tennessee and Georgia Tech. And what's crazy is it says 92% chance to host in the first round. Now, this is not me. This is not me. This is this whatever AI simulation they have here. But I thought that was pretty interesting because, we were talking about two-loss team, and that is what Georgia is now. They have them if they win against Tennessee and Georgia Tech, and those are big ifs, right? But it sounds like Nico got hurt tonight, and then Georgia Tech is Georgia Tech. 99% chance to make the playoff, 92% chance to host in the first round. So again, not me, but that is what this ESPN playoff predictor suggests. So thought that was.
See, but I don't trust AI. I keep giving it all these, hey, create a hot woman for me, and it never works.
you just end up with this guy right here. You just end up with this guy.
Ben Choppy anime, and I just don't like it. So
you just end up with Ben Choppy Bachman as your picture that you're getting sent. So Ben, what's up, man?
I mean, tonight that was. I think that was the worst loss Georgia's. I'm just going to take Alabama out of it. Since what was it? Did they lose at Auburn in 2017 before they won the SEC?
That's what Johnny Ballgame, our buddy, came on. He says worst loss since 2017.
Yeah, that Auburn game was the first time I was like, yeah, they're just getting whooped. And today, I remember texting someone after the first quarter. I'm like, this is the first time I'm like, this team just looks better than Georgia. And I don't say that often, but Ole Miss just looked better than Georgia. And the one silver lining, I will say this: after half, Ole Miss only ran the ball for 1.9 yards per carry. They basically said we're not running the ball, and they're basically telling you we're just going to throw the ball the whole time and be one dimensional. And Georgia still struggled defensively. That's my first knock because this team's supposed to be a defensive team. Carson Beck had one turnover where he got hit while throwing, and he was on their side of the field. So only one interception on their side of the field where a part of it was your offensive line. You know, usually seeing what they've been the last few weeks, you would expect them to win. If you're saying it's only one turnover and where the turnover was, you'd say Georgia would win the game because that means the offense isn't just giving them the short fields. So the defense to me is a letdown because you're a defensive team. But to me, today was the game, and I know, Roddy, you brought this up earlier, and I was going to bring it up. The C.J. Wiley, Vance Spafford, even though he's a class after, those moves are telling to me, even though they were kind of in the works for a little bit, of we need to change our philosophy on receivers and stuff like that because we cannot play in this modern day of college football without skill talent outside. Brock Bowers, A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, I know he got hurt the last year, but George Pickens, they had NFL weapons the last year or two when Todd Monken was there. They did. They don't this year. Plain and simple.
Well, it's Mike Bobo's fault. I was told religiously, it's Mike Bobo calling screenplays. It has nothing to do with the talent.
No. Now, I will say it's not Bobo. Like, to me, the only time actually it was on the defense. There was one play that really pissed me off was when Georgia out of the half got the field goal, and then they go on defense. And I remember they got the ball past midfield Ole Miss, and I saw Damon Wilson on Caden Lee in a one-on-one. And they were motioning, going, oh, we're in man coverage. You have your edge rusher on the outside against a receiver. I said, okay, this is an issue. When you have matchups like an edge rusher.
Everybody pointed that out. Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's what they did all game, Ben. They said, okay, let's go five wide, and we're either going to pick on the star or we're going to pick on the linebacker in coverage. And every time they got a tight end on a linebacker or a tight end on the star or a running back on a linebacker or a running back on the star, they went to that guy. They didn't go to their top wide receiver. Hell, he was out. But how many contested balls did you see Julian Humphrey go after or Dalen Everett? They didn't even throw on those guys. They're like, we don't need to.
Nope.
And here's the thing, Glenn Schumann got his ass handed to him because he was prepared to stop the perimeter passes because that's what Ole Miss has done all year. They knew that's what Georgia was going to focus on, so they went middle of the field, crossing routes. And then when Georgia's like, okay, we're going to get this, we're coming after this quarterback, we're going to light him up. They said, okay, they watched wherever the linebacker left, they threw to that area. And that's the first three drives. They just killed him. Georgia stopped doing that. And they said, okay, so you're going to stop coming after me. I'm going to take on, we're going to go mismatches. It was a coaching clinic. It was beautiful. Yep. I mean, and Kirby said it. I'm not banging on him. Kirby said they outcoached us. He knows it. He's not lying. He's not trying to be polite.
Right.
He doesn't do that. Everything that we say we think is coaching speak, it's Kirby just being Kirby. He's being honest. He's like, they outcoached us. They outplayed us. There's more intensity. And this schematically on offense and defense, they killed you. They did.
Right.
It was brilliant. I mean, that's the first thing Coach said. He goes, that was a brilliant game plan.
And you know what else? I think Kirby said this, which I'm kind of surprised because they did play Bama and they did play Texas. He told them going into the week, this is the best team we've played all year, is Ole Miss, which to me was kind of telling because on the road, This is a team that hasn't had a big win like that. It's the biggest win they've ever had at home before. This was the team this year when you looked and they said, what's been Lane Kiffin's flaw? He's never had a defense. Every year, like Lane Kiffin with Matt Corral, Lane Kiffin with this quarterback, he always has an offense that you're like, it scares you. He's never had a defense that scares you. You give Lane Kiffin a defense, look, he's going to be in the playoff this year. So I think their last 2 games are Mississippi State and Florida. They'll beat both of those teams going away. They're going to be 10-2. So they're going to be in the playoff. Well, I think now Georgia needs to realize their issue has been quarterback and receiver. It's been like that. And I know Stetson was good those 2 years. And I do think my only knock on Bobo, I don't think it's all him because I do like the play designs and I think the execution and the blocking. This is the worst offensive line since Kirby's first year. Worst offensive line since the first year because I look and I go this year, the tackles, you have Freeling, Green, and Truss. Freeling, a little bit inexperienced and had a rough day today, but you look at Truss and say he's been here 6 years and he doesn't look like that high-end offensive tackle. Every year, Kirby Smart's had a team the previous years. You go, Marius Mims is a first-rounder. You said Broderick Jones is a first-rounder. You said Jamari Sawyer was an anchor for you. Warren McClendon was a multi-year starting tackle. He's with the Rams. Isaiah Wilson, even though his NFL career was
got drafted. Man, come on.
But you look, you say all these tackles, you're like NFL player. This year, I don't see either of their tackles as NFL players. I don't. They were talented coming out of high school, but they do not look like NFL players. The guards, if Tate's healthy, and I'm a huge fan of Fairchild, and Jared Wilson's having a sneaky year, your interior missed assignments, but I think they're talented in there. But this is the worst offensive line I've seen since year one. And when you don't have an offensive line, you can't win. This is the worst offensive line he's had. And I think if you don't have an offensive line, you can't win the damn game. And to me, Beck's been bad this year, but today was not a game about Beck. It wasn't. When you don't have time to throw, when your team leads, the country and drops, what are you supposed to do? And I made this point, Roddy, you weren't on last week when I was on with Paul. I said, is there a quarterback in the country you trust that's a Joe Burrow type or someone like that can you just go, yeah, this guy's going to beat you. It's like in the NFL when they say there's Lamar Jackson or Mahomes or whatever. There isn't like that in college football. The best one's probably Shadur Sanders. And the crazy thing is Colorado might make the playoff, but I don't think Colorado as a team can win a championship. So I look around, I'm like, there isn't a quarterback that's going to scare you. That's the one positive I can look at for pretty much all teams. There's not a quarterback that can take over a game in college football. There really isn't.
I disagree because I think when Jalen Milroe's on in the college game, when he's hitting, he's just different. He still scares the shit out of me.
Because I saw him against Vanderbilt at times in South Carolina where it was like, oof, especially South Carolina.
He's got to be on, man. So you're right. You're right. He does. He has those capabilities. He doesn't do it consistently enough that you're worried about it. You're like, yeah, because Cam Ward can have a big night. The Texas A&M guy can go nuts. Dylan Gabriel looks phenomenal, but they're not all surrounded by a team that can win you the whole game. Shadur Sanders he's great, but he's not surrounded by a team that's going to be able to knock off a Texas or an Ohio State or hell Ole Miss. So I'm with you there 100%. But we thought year 2 for Ernest Green, he's going to be better. Last year was his first year as a starter. He was good. Like year 2, this is his money year because he redshirted, then gets his starts as a redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore year, boom, off to the NFL. We were talking about how they had 3 guards who could play anywhere. Micah Morris, Dylan Fairchild, Tate Ratledge. One of them's a preseason unanimous All-SEC first teamer. You're like, man, they've got an abundance of riches on the inside. And then, you lost Marius Mims, but you got Xavier Truss, who's played it so long, and you got what's the guy backing him up?
Monroe Freeling.
Monroe Freeling. That kid's a monster. Now he's not. I like him to be a little meaner,
Right.
But Tate's Xavier Truss is too mean, jumps on too many piles, gets too many 15-yard penalties. But I'm just like, the going into it, because I'm like, you told us this team was going to be great. Fuck, we thought they were.
Yeah.
But Green regressed. Truss regressed. Micah hurt. Tate Ratledge out.
Hurt. Yeah.
But again, he hardly practiced this week. And yet you played him a lot. And at one point you had to move Truss inside, and you had to bring in Drew Bobo later on because you're just rotating guards and everybody's banged up. I don't think Micah Morris played.
Jared Wilson was banged up, right? I remember after those
He
the
missed a
Bama
bunch
game,
of-
and then you had I think Fairchild's been playing through a calf strain, and that's tough to play through.
Yeah, so I'm just saying you got a lot of it's not some of it's injury, some of it's consistency, some of it is your musical chairs out there.
Right.
But on paper, that offensive line should have been legit. Now losing a 3-year starter, Cedric Van Pran, huge, but you only lost one guy. You know.
But I think the one thing you did bring up, like the musical chairs at the offensive line, I think one thing is when you have 5 offensive linemen, whether they're your best 5 or not, that have played together game to game to game consistently, that communication issues lessen. Because when you keep having
there were three
probably the Giants, who I remember one year they were like, yeah, we had 17 different offensive lineman combinations. And it's like, oh, no wonder they're bottom 3 in the league and they lead the league in penalties. So I remember seeing that. I'm like, yeah, when you keep rotating all these different people. Now, to me, the issue is I thought Ernest Green was going to be the stamp him. He's your left tackle. The serial will show some improvement. And he'll be picked in the top 50 in the draft. If he keeps rotating out, that's kind of an indictment on him to an extent that they don't have the full trust to, you got to be the guy. Now, I know they want to get Freeling snaps. I remember they did it with Mims the year they won the second national championship because he wasn't starting like every game over like McClendon and I think it was Broderick Jones or it might have been somebody else. But I remember they wanted to get Mims some snaps. So I kind of got that. But at the same time here, it's like you have injuries and then it's like Bobo. Like there have been like 8 or 9 different offensive linemen that have played this year. And Georgia's used to not having that. Usually it's like I remember they had early on in Kirby's tenure, Ben Cleveland gets hurt. And then here comes Cade Mays for a long stretch, and that's it. But now it's like there's so much different guys coming in. The continuity, it's going to be very hard to see them pick it up at this point.
Yeah, but I do like Jamal Merriweather. I like Daniel Calhoun. I like some of the guys they're bringing in. I'm just disappointed in the fact that that this offensive line can't run the ball. And I defended James Coley during his year because he had so many wide receiver injuries. It was a one-dimensional team, and people shit on James Coley forever. Worst offensive coordinator ever. And I'm like, I don't care if it's Munkin. I don't care if it's Schottenheimer. I don't care who it is. Yeah, hey, do the same thing with Lane Kiffin. Remember, Lane Kiffin's another one calling plays. It's Charlie Weiss Jr. You know, Weiss.
Charlie Weiss. Yeah.
Right.
That's the guy calling plays. It ain't Lane Kiffin calling plays. But you give any offensive coordinator and say, hey, you don't have a passing game or you don't have a running game, you're screwed. So I defended Coley that year because I'm like, he loses Jeremiah before the season starts. Holloman.
Yeah.
Then he had Pickens gets hurt or something like that.
Lawrence Cager got hurt, and he was looking good that year.
Yeah. So you had all these guys get out, and it's like, okay, you're kind of SOL. Tell Mike Bobo, we don't have a reliable run game. 2 weeks ago, Kirby Smart says if you want to win games, you got to be able to run the game, play defense, and not have penalties.
Yeah. But I will.
You went 0 for 3.
I will make up this one point because you guys were talking about NIL earlier and like the changing landscape of college football. The thing was when I looked at Stetson Bennett and I looked at a lot of the players when they won the national championship, there was a common theme. Stetson Bennett bled Georgia from when he was a kid. When I looked at some of these other people, Jordan Davis, even though, you know, he was like a 3 or lower 4-star, I think Georgia, only a few other Power 5 schools really took a chance on him. So there was that element of Georgia's a school that took the chance on me when nobody else. Ladd McConkey, perfect example. He was going nowhere from, you know, the northern part of Georgia. Nobody offered him. Bled Georgia. A lot of these kids were like that. With NIL and the transfer portal, now a lot of people are about their paycheck. When I looked at the baseball team this year, for example, and I don't like to compare sports much, but Charlie Condon, all he ever wanted to do was play football. I think his cousin Owen played tackle here. And I remember seeing that team, that the top players on that team were all Georgia kids who all they ever wanted to do was go to Georgia. I remember Charlie actually, fun story, Florida and LSU both reached out to try to tamper with him for the year, and he hung up the phone because all he wanted to ever do is play at Georgia. So to me nowadays with this team, there's not as many of those players that feel that way. And it's like that a lot with college football now, where when you used to look back, Nick Chubb, he was crying after games when they would lose. We remember that after the national championship game. That kid, all he ever wanted to do was run for Georgia. Now with the NIL, it doesn't have that same feel because Kirby had those guys.
Well, they're your employer now. They're not your school, Ben.
Right.
No.
So we were trying, I asked Paul to help me out to put a finger on why it's different. So these guys are still doing their job. Jalen Walker bleeds for Georgia, you know. KJ Bolden kind of comes to Georgia last second. I think if KJ Bolden, and this is complete theory,
right?
KJ Bolden grows up in the state of Georgia, is committed to FSU until signing day. Flips to Georgia. Georgia takes care of him. He comes here. He plays well, but he ain't Richard LeCount.
Right.
Remember, Kirby Smart gets the job. Richard LeCount.
Richard LeCount played Santa, didn't he?
Yeah, they. I think at least one of them was committed to Alabama, or they were both going there.
Fromm was, yeah.
Yeah, so they come to Georgia. They recruit their asses off. They get those guys coming here. They die for it. And again, I will not take anything away from the guys who are on the team now who are busting their ass for their teammates and their connection and stuff. But there is a little something different. Maybe what you're talking about is different. So maybe the Julian Humphrey, is like, hey, I'm gonna come play, but I'm also Georgia is a good stepping stone for me now. Whereas the guys that came to play, especially under Richt, or the first years under Kirby Smart, when you had 1 in 40 years, they're like, I'm gonna come and we're gonna win a freaking title there. Georgia's not just a stepping stone to the NFL for me. Whereas some of these kids are coming, they're getting paid. It's like, I loved being at UGA Sports. I left my job. I took a pay cut, came to work for Steve Patterson, and I was here until we had some issues down the road. And then I got offered to go to ESPN. I went to the mothership, worked there, hated it. But it was good for me. And I gave it my all while I was there, but my heart wasn't in it. And the first chance I had to come back, I did. I came back as the boss. And I lived for this site. This is my home away from home. This is my family. But again, because it's what I've always wanted. When I worked for ESPN, I put in my time. I worked still 60, 70-hour weeks, but it didn't have the effect. Sometimes you can tell when a guy's dialed in. Stetson Bennett died for Georgia. He went hard. He threw himself bodily into it. Carson Beck wants to win, but is Carson doing it for Carson, or is Carson doing it for Georgia?
Well, did you see on the broadcast, they were like...
It could be 96, 95%.
But even on the broadcast, they were like, Carson said, yeah, my number one love was to play baseball, but I got a scholarship to play football. So that's why he jumped at Georgia. He goes,
a lot of guys like that, though. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I will say, it's like, I don't want to fully knock on Beck there, but I will say, like, there were those. Nolan Smith, I remember Nolan Smith said this. He committed, I think he was like a sophomore in high school. He committed, like, as soon as he got offered. Broderick Jones is the same deal. They both committed when they were sophomores. And I remember Nolan Smith said, I want to be the next head coach at Georgia after Kirby Smart. He said that after he got drafted. He's like, yeah, my dream is to be the next head coach once Kirby retires, because he's from Savannah and they believe Georgia there. And it's like those players Jalen Walker gives me that kind of vibe. There's some players that give you that vibe, but there's not as many. And I think a part of it is the game itself with the portal and everything like that. It's kind of forced in a way. But I will say, what I think maybe Kirby's noticed that, because we've seen it more than this year. I know you've probably talked about it on the recruiting show, Roddy, is they've taken so many in-state kids this year. I think there's a motive behind that, because a lot of those in-state kids and where they come from, you look at where Elijah Griffin comes from out in Savannah, you look at Manchester, a lot of small town areas that really like Georgia. And a lot of these kids, even though he left briefly to go to USC, Justice Terry committed to Georgia very early on and still was committed for over a year. There are those types of kids that, have been loving Georgia for a long time that they got in this cycle. There's a lot more kids this cycle that are in-state kids that kind of, eat, sleep, and breathe Georgia early on. And I think they want those types. That's why they're probably going to go more in-state, because maybe they're cheaper with NIL, and also they just love Georgia more and it'll fit their culture. So I think that's something you're going to see more often now, bigger in-state classes. Because I remember it was like 2020. It was like Tate Ratledge, Broderick Jones, and then like they didn't take another top 30 player in Georgia or something like that. They took like Keely Ringo and Washington and Jalen Carter, and it was like a million different out-of-state kids.
Those guys are all terrible.
Yeah, so... And the funny thing is, all the outside maybe Miles Murphy, all the kids from Georgia that year from 2020 were pretty terrible that didn't go in state.
Yeah.
So
well, that's the flip side of it, is also this year you got a loaded state. Yeah. But you're right. It is, if you talk to people within the program, like, hey, what do you like about this kid? We love he's an in-state kid. Okay. So that it does factor into their thing. They will always take the best player that they can get, but it is always a nice bonus. And sometimes, again, like I said, who loves Georgia more? Carson Beck, who stuck around, he had plenty of opportunities to leave. Does Carson or Stetson Bennett love Georgia more? I don't know. but I know that maybe it's that 1%, and maybe that makes him a little more vocal. Like, guys, this means something to me. This championship, not my performance today, so that I can move on to the NFL. I'm in it to win this game. And if you have a guy who has a really great game, I'll go back to this one. I asked Chris Conley what his worst game was. It was a win over Tennessee. I'm like, what the? Are you on crack, Chris? He's like, nah, it's my worst game ever. I'm like, that was a huge Georgia win over a great Tennessee program. He goes, yeah, I played terrible. Oh, I thought, but again, so it was, and his best game was one that he hardly played in at all. It was SEC champ. One of the games that they won, he's like, yeah, I got hurt like the second quarter, didn't play the rest of the game. I'm like, that's a guy who wanted to play for Georgia. Just absolutely wanted to. Or Marlo Herrera run through a brick wall for you. Georgia has a bunch of those, but it was different in, Corey Moore doing it and Marlo Herrera doing it and David Andrews doing it versus I don't call them mercenaries, but the guys you got coming in and who see Georgia now as a NFL factory versus a college. So now, and it's everywhere. So these guys are your employers more so than they are your alma mater. So,
right.
Well, moving on, because we have been 3.5 hours, we need to paint out some dog bones and get up out of here.
I was told if we gave away any dog bones this week, we were stupid.
So I bring the question to both of you. Are we handing out helmet stickers?
Yep.
Rody, you go first.
I got to go C.J. Allen. 7 solo tackles, 8 tackles total, a tackle for loss, pass breakup. I mean, the defense gave up 28 points, but only 2 touchdowns, a ton of field goals. Defense did not play a great game, but if you get 8 tackles and you play like that, play like C.J. Allen does, you get a helmet sticker.
Who you got on offense? Got anybody on offense?
Ooh, 10 points. I'd want to give Nate Frazier one, but didn't he have 2 fumbles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the fumbles went like 8 yards backwards. I've never seen that.
Which was crazy. Yeah.
Here's the thing. On one of them, it was like it went backwards, but I thought he got the first down.
I thought he did too. I thought he was
down.
down.
Like, okay, it's 2nd and 5. I'm like, what kind of bullshit is this? He had a first down.
Yeah.
There was a NFL college where like you can't advance a forward fumble. Doesn't one of the leagues have it where you can't advance like a forward fumble?
NFL.
Oh, it's the NFL. Okay. Because I remember that was like a rule somewhere.
And I would give Urosic one for that block he put on that first touchdown score. He has a hell of a block on the edge there. But then he has a pass hit him in the face and drops it. So, yeah, I don't know who can get one on offense. This sounds weird. I'm going to give one to Carson Beck. He did have 1 interception, no touchdowns, but he also had no time.
You're grasping here, I think.
But dude, it's slim pickings.
Yeah. I mean,
you know what? Paul, last week I said every week.
Oh, wait. Kevin Johns has one.
Yeah, Cass Jones was mine. Cass Jones was mine. You can't take that. You already took your helmet.
No, I was just pointing out Kevin Johns. That's fair.
Yeah.
Paul, remember last week I said there's one play game where he always has Dominic Lovett over the middle and he throws it just behind him. It's literally once every single week. This week, he actually made that throw, and it was impressive. He went through like 3 reads, stepped up in the pocket, and made the throw. So you know what? He made that throw this week. So, I'm proud of that because every week he always misses that for whatever reason. But
he also took off and ran a couple times.
Yeah, that was, that's an improvement over basically any other week. So
he didn't throw 3 interceptions.
Nope. When was the last time he didn't have multiple?
That's the status quo to get a helmet sticker now. That's terrible.
Was Auburn the last time he didn't throw multiple picks?
He didn't throw multiple today.
No, I'm saying
today's was a tip ball, so that's
yeah. I don't know. It's something like that. It's been a while, Ben, to answer your question.
I know Florida, Texas, Mississippi State he threw multiple, I think. So, yeah, I think it was Auburn.
Yeah, Auburn was last one. He threw 3 against Bama. He threw 2 against Mississippi State, 3 against Texas, 3 against Florida, and then 1 against Ole Miss.
His one against Mississippi State, I think it was in the end zone. That might be his worst one. He just threw it directly at a guy. But I'll go defense. I'll go Dan Jackson just because he forced a turnover, and they ended up setting the tone to score a touchdown early. So he was the one that in part, I know the defense, I know Jalen Walker got the hit on the quarterback to force it, but you got a pick, and you ended up setting the tone early off of it. So I'll go Dan Jackson there, and then on offense, I'm tempted to say Dylan Bell because he made 2 really nice catches. He always has that one, run out of the backfield, but I don't know if I could give him one there.
I'll take KJ Bolden on defense. 5 tackles for the true freshman. Didn't see his name getting called a lot in bad plays, so I'll take that from a true freshman. And then obviously Cass Jones on the offensive side of the ball. That wraps up the show, guys. 3.5 hours. Next week, Tennessee. 7:30 kick. We'll be on here late night with you. Late night. Grab your coffee.
You got a prediction, Paul?
We need to predict the spread.
It was 8.5, the early spread. That's
what's up with Nico? Ben? Is he?
Yeah, he got hurt. I don't know if he came back in the game, but he got hurt.
Is he playing? Is he playing next week?
I have no idea. I got to check.
That line might be off until.
Yeah, I'm thinking that line's off.
He never went back in the game.
We got to add a guy.
I think that line's off. He just comes. It's how he listens to the show, Roddy. All right, I'm gonna go UG. I'm gonna go UG. There he is, Hawaii dog. Yeah.
Let's unmute him. Unmute the mic.
We can't unmute it. He's got to mute
it.
Hey, there he is.
I waited 2 hours to be on this damn show.
We've been trying to get you on. You keep ducking out.
Bro, it keeps dropping me.
Are you living in Hawaii? Or are you on a coach out there? Because your connection was shit.
I got Comcast, Ronnie. You see how bright it is out here? I'm in Hawaii. Here, let me show you. I'm gonna prove it to you right now. And I got bones to pick with you, bro.
Okay.
Look, I live right next to Dukes of Hazzard. Look at these dudes. Y'all see them? Look at these dudes.
Hell yeah. Hey, please tell me they got an IROC over there somewhere.
No, I ain't got no damn IROC. Hey, brother. Aloha. Hey, you see that sign right there?
Yeah. What's that?
Right there. I live right outside of Pearl Harbor, bro.
Nice.
But I grew up in Gainesville. I'm a Bulldog.
You're red.
I'm a Bulldog. No, I'm not a red elephant. I'm an East Hall. An East Hall Viking. And we used to beat the shit out of them. I don't know why happened to that program. Nonetheless, I don't understand. Like, I love my dog. Look, I'm watching Alabama beat the fuck out of LSU right now. But I don't understand why Kirby won't put another quarterback in. I don't care if it's Gunner. I don't care if it's Dylan. For one series, man. One series. Just to see, like, I am so fed up with that quarterback play. Look here. And we'll talk on the side, Roddy, on about this one. You see that right there?
Coach Mike?
Yep. You see that symbol?
Yeah.
That's St. Louis. That's where Mariota went to school. That's where Tua went to school. So any of these high school kids out here in Hawaii, you want me to go look at them on Friday night? Let me know. And I coached there. I coached there for 2 years, man, in between my assignments. Hey, it's Veterans Day. Let's look at it. Let's look. That's why I ended up over here in the house. That's my flight jacket.
Mike, thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, man. And I was over in New Mexico. There's when I coached the cops and the police. But Nonetheless, man.
What do you fly?
So I was actually a maintainer. I was a crew chief on the 135s, air refuelers, but worked on 130s and C-17s and F-22s. But
Holy shit!
but nonetheless, all that we got to keep it in class out here. Yeah, man. Like this team is so fucking frustrating. Like I just. I'll be goddamn. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like, oh god. Like, I live in. My wife leaves the house when Georgia games come on.
Imagine what, Mike.
My wife leaves the house when Georgia games come on. Man, I made a pot roast, pulled pork, wings, everything. My neighbor is an Ole Miss fan.
Oh no.
I took him some boiled peanuts over there before the game because I didn't want to talk to him after. And nobody out here, I mean, like boiled peanuts, y'all. Come on, I'm in Hawaii. Man, like, I'm just so over Carson, man. I understand he's good. I get it. And we recruit 1 to 3 every year for the last, 6, 7 years? And we ain't got nobody we can put in for one series. Just one freaking series to see, should we not watch the playoffs? Should we not even figure about the playoffs? Because I'm telling you now, if we lose one of the next 3 we got, and Georgia Tech just blew out Miami, or not blow out, but beat them, and Tennessee ain't no pushover, we're not making the playoffs. We're better than that, I thought. If not, then maybe I should be watching freaking Atlanta United or something. I don't understand what's going on.
Bullshit. No, none of that soccer.
With Georgia. I don't, man. I don't.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. That's my home ties.
No crew chief is watching soccer. I know that.
That's the only reason I make peach cobbler, man. That's my Georgia ties.
Okay.
What in the heck is going on?
Well, I'll answer your question as best I can because, again, when I came on the show, I said I would like to see a package for Gunner Stockton. And again, you could say, hey, look, we're going to do it on the third time we get the ball, or the first time if we ever get the ball on their side of the 50, whatever, we're going to do this. And I was told, hey, Rody, the reason they don't do that, it's the guy that gives us the best chance to win by far. And I said, by far? And they said, by far is Carson Beck. And I said, well, how big a drop-off is there from the first guy to the second guy? They said, a lot. Now, again, I'm a Gunner Stockton fan, and I think Ryan Puglisi is a superstar. But they are not ready. This is from people inside the program. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm telling you the opinion of people who go to practice every day. And they say those guys aren't nearly as good as Carson Beck. Now, some of that's experience, some of it is scheme, some of it is decision-making, But right now, there is a gap between your first guy and your second guy, and it's considerable. The reason I say put in the second guy is not to take out the first guy. It's just because the second guy does some stuff that your first guy can't. You saw how effective he was a couple times when Carson Beck tucked and run. You see what Jalen Milroe can do to LSU. Just to me, that threat of a running guy, I want to see those other teams have to at least practice for it. In other words, I would like Tennessee this week to be worried about what's going to happen when Georgia puts in Gunner Stockton, because they saw Georgia do it earlier, and they have to spend at least one period every day working on what their system is going to be if Georgia puts in this running QB. That's all I want.
I hear what you're saying. You see that score right there? And that's all off the legs off the quarterback, man. UGA, why can't we, if we really are the cream of the crop, top 5 in college football, why can't we get a quarterback with some damn legs? And if we have one, why aren't we playing him at least one series? At least one fucking series, man. It's so fucking frustrating. It is so freaking frustrating. Our roster, from Ole Miss's roster, Ole Miss has got a great up front defense. I get it. Outside of that,
yeah.
Like, God bless. It's so freaking frustrating, man. It is so frustrating. So frustrating. You made me want to go cut down coconut trees, man. Like, damn, dude. Like, it is so fucking frustrating. Like, literally, like, so frustrating.
He's gonna kill some trees.
Let's go cut down some coconut trees, man. Like, I don't really.
I do.
I love Georgia, but
I can tell.
I'm putting so much investment into this year. I wonder if I should. Should I not? Should I just like, let's go do this and let's go do that, and I'll look at the score on my phone, not cook before the game.
I got a hypothetical for you. How long you been in the military?
Oh, I was in the military for 24. Now I've been out for a year.
All right, so you were in for 24. How often did you disagree with something you were ordered to do or some responsibility you had?
Didn't matter. I had to do it.
That's the way it is if you're going to be a Georgia fan. You're going to report for duty every Saturday. You're going to make your pork roast. You're going to make your things. You're going to have to put up with your idiot Ole Miss fan neighbor. And you in other words, you can't quit. You won't.
Look.
So you just can't.
I wasn't a bad airman. Look.
I see the awards. I see them.
I wasn't a bad airman. Yeah. But my wife won't leave the island. I wanted to come back to Georgia and live outside of Athens, but she won't want to do it. But goodness gracious.
Hey, happy wife, happy life, man.
Yeah, man. But she leaves every time the Georgia game comes on.
Imagine why.
I have no idea why. White Dog, man, we appreciate you calling in, my friend.
Hey,
I appreciate you. The damn phone. Bro, sat here for like 2 hours. I'm sweating. I got to take a shower now.
Yeah, me too. I got to too. Hey, be strong, dog.
We'll see you next week, Hawaii.
Aloha.
Aloha.
I knew there was a reason we wanted to get him on.
Damn it, Roddy. All right. Guys, we appreciate you so much, man, for joining us for this post-game overreaction show. 3 hours and 41 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. And I appreciate you guys so much. This is UGA Sports. I'm Paul Maher. That's Ryan DeBolis. That's Ben Bachman. We'll see you next week. God, I hate this.